Maya and Tasha walked through the glass doors of the luxury car showroom, the sound of their footsteps echoing off the sleek marble floors. It was quiet, too quiet, except for the soft hum of air conditioning and the faint murmur of distant conversations. They exchanged a quick glance, both of them feeling the weight of the stares directed at them. They didn't belong here. Maya adjusted the strap of her handbag and glanced around at the rows of gleaming sports cars and high-end luxury vehicles. Every single one of them, Ferraris, Lamborghinis, and even a couple of sleek black Rolls-Royces, stood in stark contrast to the modest apartment building she and Tasha shared back in the city. The showroom, with its pristine glass walls and marble floors, felt like an entirely different world. "Are you sure we belong here?" Maya whispered under her breath. Tasha, who was always the more daring of the two, grinned. "Of course, we do. We're here for a reason." Maya didn't share the same enthusiasm. She could feel the judgment in the air, heavy and suffocating. The staff was already eyeing them, taking in their casual clothes, jeans, a hoodie, and a pair of worn sneakers, and then exchanging knowing glances. It wasn't just the staff. A few of the customers, all dressed in designer suits and high-end shoes, were watching them too, their expressions one of barely veiled amusement. It didn't take long before one of the salespeople approached. A man in his mid-30s, wearing a suit that probably cost more than Maya's rent, approached them with an overly polished smile. "Can I help you, ladies?" His tone was smooth, but there was an underlying condescension there, something Maya could hear despite his attempt at sounding polite. "We were just looking around," Maya said, trying to sound confident even though she felt her heart racing. She could feel the weight of the man's gaze, assessing her and Tasha like they were out of place. He glanced at her and then at Tasha, before responding with a forced smile. "Sure, if you're just looking around, no problem. But I'd suggest you take a seat while we assist our more serious customers." His eyes lingered on the men in suits standing near the Ferraris. Maya felt her face flush, the sting of his dismissive tone sinking deep. She shot a look at Tasha, who had her arms crossed, visibly annoyed but trying to keep her cool. Tasha leaned in slightly, speaking just loud enough for the salesman to hear. "Actually, we're interested in test driving a couple of cars." Her voice was steady, but there was an edge of defiance in it. The salesman's smile faltered for a moment, and he gave them another once-over. "Test driving? Well, I'm not sure we have any cars that fit, your needs." He hesitated, clearly not taking them seriously. Maya could feel the weight of his words like a slap in the face. This was supposed to be a chance for them to prove themselves. A chance to show they could play in the same league as these wealthy customers. Instead, they were being treated like they didn't even belong. "Why don't you let us know when you're ready to make a real purchase?" the salesman continued, before turning his attention back to the high-end clients. Maya's fists clenched. Tasha was already stepping forward, her usual calm demeanor replaced by a fire that could light up a room. "Maya, we're not leaving until we get what we came for," Tasha said quietly, a promise in her voice. The salesman was already turning away, not even bothering to apologize or acknowledge their frustration. He was back to talking to a man in a tailored suit who was asking about a custom Ferrari. Maya couldn't believe it. They had come here to make a statement, to prove to themselves that they could move in these spaces, but all they'd encountered so far was ridicule. Every step they took into the showroom seemed to add to the weight of the judgment bearing down on them. But Tasha wasn't ready to back down. Not this time. "Let's go," Tasha said, pulling Maya towards one of the cars. It was a deep red Lamborghini, shiny, sleek, and expensive. "We came here for a reason. We're not leaving without making our mark." Maya hesitated, looking over her shoulder at the salesman, who was still laughing with the other customers. The sting of their laughter hit her hard, but Tasha was already sitting in the driver's seat of the Lamborghini, her fingers brushing the leather steering wheel like she belonged there. Without another word, Maya climbed into the passenger seat. It felt surreal, sitting in such an expensive car, knowing they could never afford something like this. But it didn't matter. Not now. Tasha glanced at her, a determined glint in her eyes. We're going to show them what we're made of. Maya smiled, a mix of defiance and excitement swirling inside her. She had always admired Tasha's ability to stay calm, even when everything felt like it was falling apart. But Maya wasn't used to this, being the underdog, constantly fighting for a seat at the table. As they sat there, the weight of the world on their shoulders, they both knew that this was just the beginning. The world might laugh at them now, but they were about to show up in a way no one could ignore. But the question remained, what would happen if they could prove everyone wrong? Just as Maya was about to speak, her phone buzzed. She glanced at it, an unfamiliar number. Tasha, look at this, Maya said, her voice trembling with a mix of hope and disbelief. It's him. My uncle. The one who works at a high-end dealership. Tasha raised an eyebrow. Your uncle. Maya nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. He says he can arrange a test drive for us. Not just any car, but 2 Rolls-Royces. Tasha's eyes widened. Are you serious? We're getting the Rolls-Royces. Before Maya could respond, a voice behind them interrupted. Ladies, are you ready to drive? They turned around to find the salesman standing there again, this time with a new customer beside him. His smirk was gone, replaced by a look of confusion. Maya felt a spark of determination. Actually, we're going to leave. But thank you for your time. As they walked out of the showroom, Maya's mind raced. This was it. They weren't just going to walk away defeated. They were going to return, stronger than ever. And when they did, no one would be able to ignore them. The Rolls-Royces were waiting for them. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? The sun had begun to set as Maya and Tasha left the showroom, their spirits heavy with frustration but also burning with a new kind of resolve. The streets outside felt different now. They walked side by side, not saying much at first, but there was an unspoken understanding between them. They knew this moment would stick with them, but they also knew it was just the beginning. As they rounded the corner, Tasha broke the silence. You know, it wasn't just about the cars, right? I think we both know that. Maya glanced at her, unsure of what Tasha meant. What do you mean? Tasha shrugged, her long, natural curls bouncing with the motion. It was about proving we could be here, belong here. It's more than just the cars. It's the world that thinks we don't fit. Maya nodded slowly. She hadn't fully realized it until that moment, but Tasha was right. It wasn't about the cars or even the showroom, it was about being seen. Being taken seriously, not as a joke or a novelty. They were here because they wanted more than the life they'd been handed. That's why we're not backing down, Maya said, her voice firm. We didn't come this far just to be dismissed. Tasha grinned, her eyes gleaming. Exactly. Maya couldn't help but smile back. She had always admired Tasha's confidence, her refusal to take no for an answer, her ability to stand tall no matter the odds. Tasha had been the one to push them forward, to remind Maya that they were capable of more than what society expected from them. But Maya's journey to this point hadn't been easy. Growing up in a modest neighborhood on the outskirts of the city, Maya had always felt like she was 2 steps behind everyone else. Her mother, a single parent who worked long hours as a nurse, had done everything she could to provide for Maya, but money was always tight. Maya could never forget the nights she lay awake, staring at the cracked ceiling of her small bedroom, wondering if she would ever get the chance to break free from the cycle. Her mother had instilled in her the value of hard work, perseverance, and humility. You might not have the same opportunities as others, Maya, but you can make your own way, her mother would say. Don't ever let anyone tell you that you don't belong. But no matter how many hours she spent studying or how hard she worked at her part-time job at the local coffee shop, Maya often felt as if the world was stacked against her. The whispers from the other kids at school, the looks of pity or judgment from people when they found out where she came from, it all added up. She had learned to hold her head high, to walk through life with a sense of dignity, but inside, there was always a nagging question, am I good enough? Then there was Tasha. Maya's best friend, the one person who had always believed in her, even when Maya doubted herself. Tasha was a tech genius. While most kids were out partying or hanging out at the mall, Tasha was at home, tinkering with old computers, taking them apart and putting them back together, learning to code before anyone else even knew what it meant. Tasha's parents, though far from wealthy, had given her every opportunity they could, new computers, access to the best schools, and endless encouragement. They had always supported her dreams, knowing that their daughter was destined for greatness. Unlike Maya, who was often burdened by the realities of her situation, Tasha had a confidence that came from being surrounded by people who told her she could do anything. It was Tasha who had dragged Maya into the car showroom in the first place. It was Tasha who had seen the potential in them both. Tasha had a vision of success, freedom, and opportunity. Maya had only recently started to see it too, but she knew it wasn't just about dreaming big. It was about fighting for those dreams, no matter how impossible they seemed. As they walked through their neighborhood, Maya thought about their conversation earlier. Tasha was always thinking ahead, always planning their next move. But Maya couldn't help but wonder, what comes next? How do you think we'll make it happen? Maya asked, her voice filled with uncertainty. Tasha stopped and turned to face her. It's simple, really, she said, her eyes twinkling with excitement. We're going to show them what we can do. You've got a vision, I've got the skills, and together, we'll make people see us for who we really are. Not as some stereotype, but as the future. Maya felt a surge of pride at Tasha's words. It wasn't just the optimism that made Tasha's words powerful, it was the conviction behind them. Maya had always been the dreamer, but Tasha was the one who made things happen. She had a knack for turning the impossible into the inevitable. Let's do it, Maya said, smiling as she felt the familiar rush of excitement and determination flood her chest. Let's make our mark. The two girls stood there for a moment, letting the weight of their decision sink in. They knew it wouldn't be easy. There would be obstacles. There would be people who laughed, who told them they couldn't do it. But Maya and Tasha were more than just two girls from a modest background. They were dreamers, fighters, and together, they were unstoppable. As the sun set behind them, casting a warm glow over the streets, they made their way home, already thinking about the next steps. The world was full of possibilities, and they were ready to take it on. The next morning, Maya's phone buzzed with a message. It was from her uncle, the one who worked at the high-end dealership. He had made arrangements for them to come in. 2 Rolls-Royces were ready and waiting. Ready to show the world what we're made of. Tasha texted, a single smiley face following her message. Maya stared at the screen for a moment, then typed back, let's do this. The countdown had begun. Maya and Tasha arrived at the dealership early the next morning, the air crisp and cool as the sun was just beginning to peek over the horizon. Maya could hardly believe this was happening. Just the day before, they had been laughed at in the showroom, dismissed and overlooked. And now, here they were, standing outside the most exclusive dealership in the city, with an invitation to test drive not 1, but 2 Rolls-Royces. They parked near the entrance, the sleek black sedan Maya drove feeling somehow out of place amidst the high-end luxury cars lining the lot. Tasha, ever the optimist, was practically bouncing with excitement. Maya, on the other hand, felt a knot in her stomach. She had dreamed of moments like this, walking into a place like this with confidence, being seen, and treated as if she belonged. But now that it was happening, the weight of the situation hit her all at once. What if they weren't ready? What if they couldn't live up to the image these cars represented? Tasha noticed Maya's hesitation. Hey, don't overthink this, she said, a playful smile tugging at her lips. We've got this. We're not leaving here without making a statement. Let's walk in there like we own the place. Maya took a deep breath and nodded. Tasha always knew how to lift her spirits. Together, they walked into the dealership. The polished glass doors opened to reveal a showroom lined with luxury vehicles that looked like they belonged in a museum rather than a place for purchases. The air inside was cooler, the scent of leather and expensive cologne mingling in the air. The ambience screamed wealth, expensive furniture, crystal chandeliers hanging from the ceiling, and walls adorned with high-end art. Every detail was meticulously curated, a stark contrast to the modest shops and apartments that made up their world. They were immediately greeted by a tall man in a tailored suit, his crisp white shirt gleaming under the showroom lights. He smiled when he saw them, but Maya could see the initial flicker of surprise in his eyes. It was the same look the salesman from yesterday had given them, a look that said, "What are you doing here?" "Good morning, ladies," he said with an overly polite smile. "I'm Robert, the manager here. I understand you're interested in test driving a couple of our vehicles." Tasha didn't waste any time. "Yes, we are," she replied confidently. "We're here to drive the Rolls-Royces. We have an appointment, courtesy of Maya's uncle." Maya could see Robert's eyebrows raise ever so slightly at the mention of her uncle. She could practically hear the gears turning in his head, trying to make sense of why two young women, dressed in casual clothes, were about to take out some of the most expensive cars in the world for a spin. Of course, Robert said, maintaining his professionalism. "Please, follow me. I'll take you to the cars." They walked deeper into the showroom, passing by a fleet of gleaming vehicles, Lamborghinis, Ferraris, and Porsches. The Rolls-Royces were parked in the back, waiting like silent titans. Robert stopped in front of two cars, both black and polished to perfection, each with their signature sleek design. One was a Rolls-Royce Phantom, its imposing front grille gleaming under the lights. The other was a Rolls-Royce Wraith, its curves almost flowing like liquid metal. Maya stood frozen, mesmerized by the sight. She had seen these cars in magazines, on TV shows, and in movies, but never in real life. This was the kind of luxury that people only dreamed of. The kind of luxury that, until recently, had felt out of reach. Tasha stepped forward, practically glowing. "These are the cars we're going to drive?" she asked, her voice almost reverent. "Yes," Robert replied, his voice laced with professionalism, but there was still a hint of disbelief. "The Phantom and the Wraith. Which one would you like to drive first?" Maya felt a surge of excitement mixed with nerves. This was it. This was the moment they had worked so hard for. But part of her wondered if she was truly ready to take control of something this monumental. Without thinking, Tasha spoke up. "Maya, you should drive the Phantom. You've earned it." Maya blinked, surprised at her friend's boldness. "Me?" she asked. "But." "Yes, you," Tasha insisted. "We've worked for this. You've got this, Maya." Maya's heart beat a little faster. The Phantom. The name alone felt heavy, like a promise of something bigger. The car was a symbol of success, of power, and of a world that had always been just out of reach. "Okay," Maya said, her voice steady despite the butterflies in her stomach. "Let's do this." Robert handed her the keys, and as he did, he gave her a look that said, "Let's see how this goes." There was a brief moment of silence before he spoke again. "Please, be careful. These vehicles are quite powerful." Maya nodded. She had driven fast cars before, but nothing like this. This was on a different level entirely. The two girls made their way to the cars, and as Maya climbed into the driver's seat of the Phantom, she couldn't help but marvel at the soft leather interior and the high-tech dashboard. The luxury was overwhelming. Every surface seemed to glow with prestige. Tasha climbed into the passenger seat of the Wraith, giving Maya an encouraging smile. "This is our moment. Show them what we're made of." With a deep breath, Maya started the engine. The roar of the engine was almost seductive, a powerful hum beneath her feet as the car came to life. She adjusted the seat, her hands gripping the steering wheel, and for the first time in a long while, she felt like she belonged here. "Ready when you are," Tasha shouted from her car, clearly excited. Maya smiled, glancing at Tasha. "Let's see what these cars can really do." She pressed the gas pedal gently, and the Phantom glided forward, effortlessly powerful. As they drove through the city streets, Maya felt the eyes of pedestrians on them. She could feel the envious stares, the curiosity, the awe. The world was looking at her differently now. She wasn't the girl who had been laughed at the day before. She was a force to be reckoned with. Tasha floored the gas pedal in the Wraith beside her, and the two cars sped through the streets, carving their way through traffic with ease. The city felt like a different place now, one where they were in control, one where they were no longer invisible. As they drove on, Maya knew one thing for sure: this was just the beginning. The world might have laughed at them before, but now it was their turn to make the world listen. The real test was just beginning, and they were ready to face it head-on. Maya and Tasha zoomed through the city streets, their two Rolls-Royces gliding with unmatched elegance, drawing stares from everyone around them. The hum of the engines was like a symphony, a blend of raw power and refined luxury that resonated deep within Maya. She had always imagined this moment, but nothing compared to the reality of sitting behind the wheel of the Phantom. The car responded to her touch like it could read her mind, effortlessly maneuvering through the lanes, turning corners with precision. "Do you feel that?" Maya's voice was barely a whisper, awe seeping into her words. Tasha, in the Wraith beside her, grinned ear to ear. "I do. This is what it's all about, Maya. It's not just about the car, it's about what we're capable of. The way we're owning this." Maya let out a breath she didn't realize she was holding. The wind whipped through her hair, and for the first time in a long while, she didn't feel like an outsider. She felt like someone who belonged here, in this world of luxury and possibility. The air was different now, filled with the scent of ambition and achievement. They weren't just driving, they were making a statement. "Let's take the long way around," Maya suggested, a newfound confidence surging through her veins. "I want to see how these beasts handle the open road." Tasha gave a loud whoop of excitement and shifted her car into gear. "Let's do it." The two cars peeled out, leaving behind the busy streets of downtown, heading toward the quieter, more scenic parts of the city. Maya could feel the power of the Phantom beneath her, ready to be unleashed at the slightest touch of the pedal. It was exhilarating. She had never driven anything like this before. Every turn felt smooth, every acceleration seamless. The luxury of the vehicle surrounded her, cocooning her in comfort, while the roar of the engine reminded her of the raw power under the hood. As they cruised down the empty road, Maya glanced over at Tasha, who was grinning like she had just won the lottery. Tasha's hands gripped the wheel with the same intensity and determination Maya had seen in her best friend since they were kids. "How are you feeling?" Tasha shouted over the roar of the engines. Maya grinned back, feeling the adrenaline course through her. "This feels unreal. We're not just driving luxury cars, we're proving something." Tasha nodded. "Exactly. We're showing everyone, including ourselves, that we deserve to be here. That we're not just two girls from a neighborhood that people forget about." Maya's heart swelled with pride at Tasha's words. It wasn't just about the cars. It was about breaking the mold. It was about challenging expectations and rewriting the narrative. As they drove on, the city gave way to wide, open spaces, the kind of roads where dreams seemed to stretch on forever. They pushed the cars further, testing the limits. The Phantom and the Wraith seemed to glide, almost weightless, as if the road itself was part of their kingdom. The landscape flew by, and with every mile, Maya felt her doubts slipping away. "I never thought I'd get the chance to do this," Maya said quietly, her eyes fixed on the road ahead. "I never thought I'd get to sit behind the wheel of something like this, let alone own it." Tasha's voice softened, and for a moment, Maya could hear the emotion in her words. It's not about owning the car, Maya. It's about owning our lives. These cars, this moment, it's just a symbol of what we're capable of when we stop holding ourselves back. Maya nodded, her eyes slightly misting. She had always felt like an outsider in many ways, but now she was beginning to understand. This was her chance to change everything. For the next hour, they drove through the countryside, talking, laughing, and letting the world around them fade. As they reached the crest of a hill, they stopped for a moment, both cars parked side by side on the shoulder. The sun was setting, casting a golden hue over the landscape. It was the perfect moment, one that neither of them would ever forget. Tasha climbed out of the wraith and stretched her arms out, taking in the view. This is it, Maya. This is the life we're building. And it's just the beginning. Maya looked out over the rolling hills, feeling the weight of Tasha's words settle in her chest. It was the beginning of something monumental. For years, she had been fighting for a chance to be seen. To be heard. To prove that her background didn't define her, that her potential wasn't limited by where she came from. Now, she was starting to see the possibilities unfold. They spent another hour talking about what came next, dreams, goals, plans for the future. Maya felt lighter than she had in years. She and Tasha were no longer just two girls from the other side of town. They were women on a mission. Women who would not be defined by their circumstances, but by their ambition, resilience, and determination. All right, let's head back, Maya said, her voice filled with a new sense of purpose. We've made our point. Tasha smiled and climbed back into the wraith. You got it. We've proven we belong. Now we need to show them we're here to stay. The drive back to the dealership was a blur, both cars gliding back into the city, the night settling in around them. As they pulled up to the dealership, the lights from the showroom illuminated the two luxury cars, their presence undeniable. Robert, the dealership manager, was waiting for them when they arrived. He looked both impressed and surprised, clearly taken aback by the two young women who had just come from taking the Rolls-Royces out for a spin like it was no big deal. How was the drive? He asked, his tone a bit more respectful now. Perfect, Maya said, her voice steady. The cars are incredible. We just wanted to test the limits, see how they handled. Robert nodded slowly, his expression thoughtful. I have to admit, I wasn't sure what to expect, but you two really handled those cars like pros. Tasha's grin was wide. That's the idea. Maya stepped out of the Phantom, her heart still racing. We're not just here for the experience, she said, meeting Robert's eyes. We're here to show that we can handle this world. And we're not leaving until we get what we came for. Robert's eyes widened slightly at the boldness of Maya's words, but he said nothing. It was clear that this was a moment of realization for him. These were two young women who were destined for more than what anyone might have thought of them. Maya and Tasha weren't just here to buy cars, they were here to make a statement. And this was only the beginning. The next few days were a whirlwind. Word had spread quickly about the two young women who had taken the Rolls-Royces out for a test drive. People who had once dismissed them now saw them in a different light. The gossip about the two girls from the other side of town was just the beginning of the shift that would change their lives. As Maya sat in her bedroom that evening, scrolling through messages on her phone, she realized that this was no longer just a dream. It was happening. She was on the path to something greater. And nothing, not the doubts or the laughs from the past, could stand in her way now. The week after their unforgettable test drive, Maya and Tasha couldn't help but feel the weight of their newfound fame, or at least, the kind of attention they were starting to receive. Word had spread like wildfire across social media. They had become something of an urban legend, a tale of two girls who defied expectations, laughed in the face of skepticism, and cruised through the city in Rolls-Royces as if it was the most normal thing in the world. They started receiving messages from all kinds of people, old acquaintances, new strangers, people who admired their confidence and others who were just curious about how they managed to pull it off. Some were genuine, others simply wanted to know if the girls had really driven those cars, as if it were impossible for someone like them to afford such luxury. But there was a darker side to this newfound attention as well. There were whispers behind their backs, questions about where the money had come from, and rumors that spread like wildfire. "Do you think they'll start asking more questions?" Tasha asked one evening, as they sat on Maya's balcony overlooking the city, the glow of streetlights painting the streets below. The two were quietly reflecting on the whirlwind of the past few days. Maya shook her head, trying to push the doubt out of her mind. "I don't know. I mean, we've worked hard to get here. People don't see that. They just see the car and assume it came easy." Tasha snorted, the bitterness evident in her laugh. "Easy? Girl, nothing's been easy. We've been working our butts off for years just to get a shot at this life. But no one wants to hear that. They'd rather talk about where we got the car than how we got here." Maya nodded, understanding the frustration in Tasha's voice. She had felt it too. Every step forward, it seemed, was met with suspicion. They were two black girls from the neighborhood. How could they possibly have the kind of money to afford something as expensive as a Rolls-Royce? She sighed and leaned back, staring up at the stars. "But that's the thing, Tasha. We don't owe anyone an explanation. We've earned this. And we're going to keep proving that." But deep down, Maya knew it wasn't going to be that simple. She could already sense the shifts in the way people treated them, some with admiration, others with envy, and others still with judgment. The next day, their lives took another unexpected turn. Maya received a call from Robert, the dealership manager who had greeted them that fateful day. His voice was polite, but there was a noticeable tension in it. "Maya, Tasha," Robert began, "I need to talk to you both. I think we need to have a more formal discussion about the cars." Maya's stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" "I know your uncle arranged the test drive for you, but I need to remind you that these vehicles aren't exactly available for just anyone to take out, especially without proper documentation and an established history with us. We're grateful for your interest, but there's some confusion surrounding your visit. I'd like to have a conversation to clear things up, if that's all right." Maya felt a cold knot in her chest. The reality was setting in. The luxury of the Rolls-Royce, the attention, the excitement, it all had its price. People were going to start asking questions. And if they weren't careful, their dreams could easily slip through their fingers. "We'll come in tomorrow," Maya replied, her voice firm despite the unease growing in her stomach. "Thanks for letting us know, Robert." After hanging up, Maya turned to Tasha, who had been listening quietly. "This is it, huh? The moment we start being questioned." Tasha stared at her, chewing her lip thoughtfully. "Yeah. But we can't back down now. We've come this far. We can handle whatever they throw at us." Maya couldn't help but admire Tasha's unshakable confidence. Tasha always seemed to know how to turn any situation into a challenge. And Maya wasn't about to back down either. Not now. The next day, they arrived at the dealership early, walking through the automatic glass doors with a sense of determination. Robert was waiting for them at the same spot where they had first seen the Rolls-Royces. His usual calm demeanor was replaced by a more guarded expression. "Maya, Tasha," he greeted them. "Thanks for coming in. Please, have a seat." They sat down across from him at a glass table. Maya could feel the tension in the air, but she wasn't about to let it rattle her. She had to stand her ground, for herself and for Tasha. "I'm sure you both know why I asked you here," Robert began. "There are some concerns about your visit last week. I've been asked to look into how you were able to take out these vehicles for a test drive." Tasha's eyes narrowed slightly, but she remained calm. "We were invited by my uncle," she said evenly. "We've been in touch with him for a while now. He arranged everything." Robert didn't seem entirely convinced. "I understand, but we do need proper documentation to allow test drives of these cars." We're a high-end dealership. We can't just hand the keys to anyone, no matter who they claim to know. Maya leaned forward, trying to keep her voice steady. Look, Robert. We've earned the right to be here. We've worked hard for this moment. The truth is, we don't need to justify ourselves to anyone. We're not asking for a handout. We're asking for a chance. A chance to prove that we belong in this world, just as much as anyone else. Robert paused, clearly taken aback by Maya's directness. He studied them both for a moment, as if weighing the sincerity in their words. Finally, he nodded. I hear you. I do, he said slowly. But it's not about just getting the cars for free or proving something to anyone. This is about making sure that everything is above board. I'm going to have to talk to my superiors about this. But I promise I'll keep you in the loop. As Robert turned to go, Maya exchanged a glance with Tasha. It wasn't the worst outcome, but they both knew they hadn't won yet. They still had to prove themselves, not just to Robert, but to everyone who thought they didn't belong. You okay? Tasha asked as they walked out of the dealership, the cool air a welcome relief from the tension inside. Maya took a deep breath, trying to steady her nerves. Yeah. I just don't want them to think we're some kind of charity case. Tasha laughed softly, nudging her friend with her elbow. Maya, we're not some charity case. We're just getting started. And with that, Maya realized something important. This wasn't just about the cars. It was about breaking down every barrier, every expectation, and proving once and for all that no matter where you came from, you could rise to any challenge. She and Tasha had already made their mark. Now, they just had to keep pushing forward. Later that night, as Maya sat in her room, scrolling through messages and emails, a thought hit her. The attention, the challenges, and the whispers, it wasn't just the price of success. It was the cost of stepping into a world where not everyone wanted to see her succeed. But as long as she had Tasha by her side, there was nothing they couldn't face together. Maya had always dreamed of something bigger, something greater. She had always believed that she was capable of so much more than her circumstances suggested. And now, she had a chance to prove it. There would be hurdles. There would be obstacles. But Maya was ready for them. This was just the beginning. The following weeks felt like a blur for Maya and Tasha. As they awaited Robert's update from the dealership, their lives were filled with both excitement and unease. They had proven their worth in the cars they had driven, but the uncertainty surrounding their future with the dealership left them feeling like they were teetering on the edge of something they couldn't fully control. Maya and Tasha spent most of their days either reflecting on their breakthrough or working their regular jobs that, for now, kept the dream of owning luxury cars and entering the high society world alive. Maya worked late shifts at a boutique clothing store, and Tasha was busy with her part-time gig as a social media coordinator. But every evening, they found themselves reunited, planning their next steps. I just want to know what Robert is going to say, Maya said one evening, her fingers tapping rhythmically on the glass table between them as they sat on her balcony again. The city skyline stretched out before them, lights twinkling in the distance, but the buzz in her mind was constant. Tasha, lounging with her feet kicked up on the chair across from Maya, grinned. Don't worry. He'll come around. He knows what we're about. People like us, people who fight for what we want, we don't give up easily. And you know what? They're gonna see it. We're not some charity case. Maya chuckled, shaking her head. I know, Tasha. I just don't want to get stuck in some kind of limbo, where everyone is questioning us. That's what I'm afraid of. You know what? Tasha sat up, her eyes locking with Maya's. If they want to question us, let them. Let them ask all they want. But we've got something they don't have, hunger, Maya. And hunger gets things done. We've already proven that much. We got those cars for a reason, and we're gonna prove that we belong here, whether they like it or not. Maya absorbed Tasha's words, feeling the familiar fire burn in her chest. Tasha had always been the one to push forward, to break barriers, to be relentless in her pursuit of what she wanted. Maya had always admired that about her. But now, she realized it wasn't just Tasha's fire that was fueling them, it was her own. Just as Maya started to feel a flicker of hope ignite within her, her phone buzzed on the table. It was a message from Robert. Maya, Tasha. I spoke with my superiors. They've agreed to let you take another test drive of the vehicles, but we'll need to finalize some things in person before anything can proceed. Let me know when you're free to meet. Tasha's eyes widened, and she shot Maya a questioning glance. It's happening, Maya said, her heart racing. He said they agreed to let us take another test drive, but we need to go in for the paperwork. This is our chance. Tasha jumped out of her seat and gave Maya a playful shove. I told you. They're gonna see us, Maya. We're gonna walk in there like we own the place. They'll have no choice but to respect us. Maya smiled, but a knot of nervous anticipation twisted in her stomach. She wasn't sure whether it was the excitement of getting another shot or the uncertainty of what was about to come. Either way, she knew this moment could make or break everything they had worked for. The next day, Maya and Tasha arrived at the dealership in the same clothes they'd worn the first time, sharp, confident, and ready for whatever came their way. But this time, it felt different. There was a certain weight to their presence as they stepped out of Tasha's car, both of them fully aware of the eyes on them. Robert was waiting for them when they entered, his demeanor more reserved than before. His smile didn't seem as wide, and the tension in the air was palpable. Hello, ladies, Robert greeted them, motioning to the plush leather chairs nearby. Please, take a seat. We've got some paperwork to discuss. Maya and Tasha exchanged a quick look. They had done their homework, researched everything they needed to know about purchasing high-end cars, and now they just had to prove they were serious. As they sat down, Robert placed a thick folder in front of them. Maya could already tell this meeting wasn't going to be as simple as the last one. The documents were dense, full of legal jargon, requirements, and conditions, things Maya didn't expect to face when they first walked in. She had known it wouldn't be easy, but this was the reality of dealing with a world of luxury that didn't easily accept people like them. Robert started speaking, his voice calm but professional. These are the terms for moving forward with the purchase. There will be some credit checks and financial confirmations before anything can go through. But don't worry, we'll help you navigate the process. Tasha glanced at the paperwork, her face serious but unyielding. We're ready for this, Robert. We've been preparing for this moment. We're not backing down now. Maya nodded, her heart thumping in her chest. We've got the means to handle this. We just need the chance to prove it. Robert paused for a moment, as if measuring their resolve. It's not just about proving it to me, ladies. It's about proving it to everyone in this industry. People like to see a track record, something that shows you're capable of handling these kinds of investments. It's a tough world, and it won't be easy. We know it won't be easy, Tasha cut in. But we've earned our place here. And we're going to keep proving that. We didn't come here to fail. Maya could see that Robert was beginning to soften, but there was still a bit of skepticism in his eyes. I'll get the process started, but just know that this isn't something that happens overnight. It could take weeks, even months, before everything goes through. Maya took a deep breath. This was the moment of truth. We've waited long enough, she said firmly. We're ready. Robert seemed to take her at her word, nodding as he slid the papers toward them. All right then. We'll proceed with the application process. But don't forget, this world can be unforgiving. Keep that in mind moving forward. As they left the dealership later that day, the weight of what had just transpired settled on Maya's shoulders. The road ahead was far from guaranteed, but one thing was clear, they were no longer outsiders. They had entered the arena, and now, they had to prove they belonged. I told you we could do it, Tasha said, a smile of determination on her face. They're going to see us for who we are, whether they like it or not. Maya smiled back, her confidence returning. This is just the beginning. We've got a long way to go. But we're not stopping now. And with that, Maya felt an overwhelming sense of purpose fill her. The journey was far from over, but she was no longer afraid of what was to come. She was ready for whatever challenge lay ahead. Together, they would make their mark. Together, they would rise. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of meetings, paperwork, and phone calls. Maya and Tasha had gotten the ball rolling with the dealership, but the process of buying a Rolls-Royce was not going to be as straightforward as they had hoped. Every step forward seemed to come with an obstacle, each more complicated than the last. They found themselves navigating through financial red tape, meeting with bankers and financial advisors, and trying to prove their worth in a world that had never expected them to be a part of it. Every email from Robert was met with both hope and dread, because while he promised progress, it often felt like they were running in place, waiting for approval that might never come. One afternoon, Maya sat at her desk at the boutique store, scrolling through emails when she saw an email from Robert pop up in her inbox. Her heart skipped a beat as she clicked it open. Maya, Tasha, I've reviewed your application, and there are some issues with your financial profile that need to be addressed before we move forward. We're looking for more substantial proof of income, especially considering the type of investment we're discussing. Please let me know how you plan to proceed. Maya felt a wave of frustration crash over her, but she quickly masked it with resolve. She knew this wasn't the time to crumble. She couldn't afford to let one obstacle stop her. She texted Tasha immediately, "We've hit another roadblock. We need to prove more income before we can move forward." It didn't take long for Tasha to reply, "I'm on it. Meet me at the coffee shop in 20 minutes. We're not backing down." When they met at their usual spot, Maya could tell that Tasha was as fired up as she was. "This is getting ridiculous," Maya said, shaking her phone in frustration. "We've been working our asses off, and they still want more. How much more do we have to prove?" Tasha leaned forward, tapping her fingers on the table. "Maya, look. We knew it wouldn't be easy. But this is just another challenge. And we've overcome worse, right?" Maya nodded slowly. She couldn't deny that Tasha was right. They had been through harder things than this, and they had always come out stronger on the other side. "Okay," Maya said, straightening up in her seat. "What do we need to do? We need to show them that we're in control. That we have the resources, the strategy, and the support. We're not just some fly-by-night operation. We've got our lives together. So, we need to get some documentation, proof of income, tax returns, the works. We'll make sure Robert sees we've got the foundation to make this purchase." Maya couldn't help but smile at Tasha's relentless energy. No matter how tough the situation got, Tasha was always ready with a solution. "I'll call my accountant," Maya said, already pulling out her phone. "We've been keeping track of everything. We'll get it to them. Let's get this over with." The next day, Maya spent hours gathering the necessary documents, making calls, and organizing her finances in a way that would impress any skeptic. She reached out to her accountant and had him send over the tax returns and financial statements, making sure everything was in order. At the same time, Tasha was busy doing her part, researching investment opportunities, writing up proposals, and making sure the business side of their plan was solid. They were a well-oiled machine, even when the world seemed determined to hold them back. The following morning, Maya and Tasha walked into the dealership again. This time, there was no hesitation in their steps. They had already been through the ringer, and they were prepared to face whatever came next. Robert greeted them at the door, his usual polite smile still in place, but there was a subtle change in his demeanor. Maya could tell that he was more guarded than before. "I've reviewed the documents you sent," Robert said after they sat down. "But, I still need to be sure that this investment is sound. We're talking about a significant amount of money here, and I'm not just going to let anyone take these cars for a spin without knowing they can back it up." Tasha leaned forward, her eyes locked on Robert's. We've done everything you've asked. We've shown you our income, our assets, and our plans. We're serious about this. Maya nodded in agreement. We've worked hard for this, Robert. We didn't get here by cutting corners or waiting for handouts. We've done it all ourselves. There was a long pause, the air thick with tension. Robert flipped through the papers in front of him, clearly weighing his options. I'm not questioning your dedication, ladies, Robert said finally, his voice softening. But this is a tough business. The financial side of it can be unforgiving. I just want to make sure you're prepared for what's coming. Maya's heart pounded in her chest, and for a brief moment, she feared they wouldn't get the approval they needed. But then she saw Tasha's unwavering confidence, and it gave her the strength to push through. We're more than ready, Tasha said firmly. We've got a vision. We've got a plan. We've got the means. We just need someone to give us a chance. Robert stared at them for a moment longer, his fingers tapping rhythmically on the table. Finally, he nodded. I'll take these documents to my superiors, he said. But this could take some time. Please understand, there are a lot of factors at play here. Maya and Tasha exchanged a look. It wasn't the instant approval they had hoped for, but it was a step in the right direction. Thank you, Robert, Maya said, her voice steady despite the uncertainty. We'll be waiting to hear from you. As they left the dealership, Maya could feel the weight of everything they had just endured pressing on her shoulders. The roadblocks were relentless, and no matter how hard they fought, it seemed like the world kept throwing up barriers in their path. But as they stepped outside into the sunlight, Tasha clapped Maya on the back. We're almost there, Maya. We're closer than ever. And no matter how long it takes, we're not giving up. Maya nodded, the fire in her chest reigniting. She wasn't about to give up now. They had come this far, and they were going to see this through, no matter the cost. This was only the beginning, and Maya was more determined than ever to make sure they succeeded. The days that followed their meeting at the dealership were the hardest yet. Maya and Tasha had been through a lot already, but now, they were in a limbo, waiting for the next step to unfold. The uncertainty hung over them like a thick fog, one that refused to lift no matter how hard they tried to push through it. For Maya, the weight was excruciating. She had become so used to working hard and seeing results that this period of waiting felt like an unfamiliar and frustrating setback. Every morning she woke up with a sense of urgency, a deep-rooted belief that if she just kept pushing, if she kept grinding, something would break. But all she could do was check her email, check her phone, and wait for Robert to call. Tasha, on the other hand, seemed to take the waiting game in stride. It wasn't that she was unaffected, it was just that she had learned how to stay focused, even when things weren't moving as fast as she wanted them to. Tasha's approach was always to keep moving forward, regardless of the circumstances. Come on, Maya. You can't keep staring at your phone like that, Tasha said one evening as they sat in their usual coffee shop, sipping lattes. It's not going to speed things up. You gotta live in the moment. Maya glanced at her phone one more time, the frustration obvious on her face. I know. But this is huge, Tasha. This could change everything. What if we don't get approved? What if they decide we're not ready after all this? Tasha leaned back in her chair, her hands behind her head, eyes closed like she was sunbathing in the middle of a cold winter. And what if we do get approved? What if this is the moment everything changes? We're in the game now, Maya. That's all that matters. Maya sighed, rubbing her temples. I want it to work. I really do. But I can't stop worrying. Worrying doesn't do anything but eat you alive. It doesn't make the process go faster or change the outcome, Tasha said, her voice firm. You've got to trust that we've done everything we could. Now, it's in their hands. Whatever happens, happens. Maya knew that Tasha was right. She'd always been a worrier by nature, but over the last few weeks, she had learned to hold on to hope in ways she hadn't thought possible. If anything, this experience was teaching her the importance of patience. Still, she couldn't help but feel an undercurrent of anxiety tugging at her every time she checked her phone. Days turned into weeks, and still, there was no word from Robert. Maya and Tasha tried to keep themselves busy, but every conversation seemed to circle back to the same thing. Their dream of driving those cars and making their mark in a world that had never considered them worthy. It was on one of those long, quiet afternoons when Robert's call finally came. Maya saw his name flash across her phone screen, and her heart skipped a beat. She immediately answered, trying to keep her voice steady despite the adrenaline rushing through her veins. "Hello, Robert," she said, her tone a mix of excitement and nervousness. "Maya, Tasha," Robert's voice was calm, almost businesslike. "I've had the chance to discuss everything with my team, and after reviewing your finances, your proposals, and the overall picture, we've come to a decision." Maya held her breath, her fingers gripping the phone tighter. "We're going to move forward with your application," Robert continued. "It's going to be a process, and there will be some more hoops to jump through. But as of today, we are approving you for the purchase." The words hit Maya like a wave, sweeping over her in a rush of disbelief and joy. "Wait. What? You're serious?" "Yes," Robert replied. "You've shown commitment, and after all the hard work you've put in, we believe you're ready for this next step." Maya couldn't contain her excitement. She looked across the table at Tasha, who was staring at her with wide eyes, waiting for an update. "We did it!" Maya blurted out, her voice cracking with emotion. Tasha jumped out of her seat, throwing her arms around Maya in a hug that nearly knocked the table over. "I knew we could do it, girl. I knew it." Maya laughed, overwhelmed with the weight of the moment. It had taken so much just to get here, and yet, they were still only at the beginning. "So, what happens now?" Maya asked, still struggling to process the magnitude of what had just been said. Robert's voice was steady. "We'll need to go over the details of the contracts, but we're moving forward. I'll schedule a meeting with you both to finalize the process. This is just the start, but I believe you two are exactly what we need in this industry." The excitement in Maya's chest threatened to explode, but she kept her composure. "Thank you, Robert. Thank you for believing in us." "Of course," he said with a nod. "I'll send you the official documents and we'll set up a time for you to come in." After ending the call, Maya let out a breath she hadn't realized she had been holding. For the first time in a long time, the weight on her shoulders seemed to lift. "We did it," Maya whispered, almost in disbelief. "We did it," Tasha echoed, a huge grin on her face. For a long moment, neither of them spoke, just soaking in the realization of what they had achieved. They had broken through the barriers, earned the respect of an industry that had never given them a chance, and proved that hard work and determination could indeed lead to success. But as they celebrated in the coffee shop, Maya's mind shifted to what came next. This wasn't the end of the road. This was only the beginning. There would be challenges ahead, no doubt, but she was ready for whatever came their way. They were finally going to drive those cars, and this was just the first of many dreams that were about to come true. As the sun began to set that evening, casting a warm glow over the city, Maya sat back in her chair, staring out the window. She could hardly believe how far they had come, how much they had fought to get to this moment. But deep inside, she knew it wasn't over. The journey was just beginning. And she was more than ready for the next chapter. The Rolls-Royce dream was now within their reach. The days after Robert's call were a blur of activity. Maya and Tasha were in overdrive, scrambling to finalize the last details of their purchase. The dealership sent over the official contracts, and they pored over every clause, every term, double-checking that everything was in order. It wasn't just about buying cars anymore, it was about solidifying a dream they had spent years chasing. Every move felt important, every decision pivotal. They couldn't afford to let anything slip through the cracks now. The stakes were too high. Tasha had always been the more pragmatic one, and Maya often found herself leaning on her during these final stages. As much as Maya was excited and impatient, she knew that Tasha's cool-headed approach was exactly what they needed to get through this. Tasha kept reminding Maya to breathe, to slow down, and to remember that this was the moment they had worked for. "So, what's next?" Maya asked, leaning over the dining table at Tasha's apartment, where they had spread out the paperwork. Her fingers ran over the sleek contracts, feeling the weight of the words they contained. This was the point of no return. Tasha looked at her, a slight smile tugging at her lips. "Now we wait for confirmation. We'll go in, finalize everything, and then they'll start prepping the cars. But it's mostly just a matter of the paperwork now. After that, you and I are driving off in those cars, Maya. I don't know about you, but I'm excited." Maya could barely contain herself. She had dreamed about this moment for so long, but now that it was so close, she found herself overwhelmed with the realization that it was actually happening. She had to pinch herself to make sure she wasn't dreaming. "I can't believe this is really happening," Maya said, looking out the window of Tasha's apartment. "I've always wanted something like this. I've always wanted to be part of something big." "You already are," Tasha replied. "We've been part of something big from the moment we decided to go for it. This is just the reward for all the hard work." The next day, they received the confirmation email. The cars were ready. The paperwork was in order. They had officially crossed every hurdle, and now, they were only a few signatures away from driving off into a new chapter of their lives. Maya felt a rush of excitement and nervousness mixed together in her stomach. The moment they had been waiting for was finally here. When they arrived at the dealership, Robert was there to greet them, his usual polite demeanor in place, but this time, there was something different. There was a certain respect in his eyes that hadn't been there before. "I'm glad we could make this happen," he said, shaking both of their hands. "You two have proven yourselves. Not just to me, but to the industry. This is a big deal." Maya and Tasha exchanged a quick look, the reality of it all finally settling in. "You're not just selling cars to us," Maya said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "You're giving us the chance to prove that we belong here. And we won't let you down." Robert nodded, a slight smile crossing his face. "I believe you. Let's go see your new rides." They walked through the showroom, past luxury vehicles, past polished chrome and pristine leather seats, until they reached the two Rolls-Royces that had been waiting for them. Maya's breath caught in her throat when she saw them. Sleek, powerful, beautiful. The kind of cars that people dreamed of, but never thought they could touch. There they were. Her dream was standing right in front of her. Tasha let out a low whistle. "Damn. These are the real deal." Maya ran her hand along the smooth surface of the car, still in awe. "This is unreal." Robert handed them the keys with a smile. "Go ahead. Take them for a spin. I think you've earned it." For a few seconds, neither of them moved. It was almost too good to be true. They had fought for this moment, against all odds, and now it was here. Tasha was the first to break the silence. "Maya, let's do it. Let's drive these cars." Maya nodded, a grin spreading across her face. "Let's go." The first drive was everything Maya had imagined and more. As she sat behind the wheel of the Rolls-Royce, she could feel the power beneath her hands, the precision with which the car responded to every turn and every press of the accelerator. The leather seats hugged her like they had been made just for her, and the smooth purr of the engine made her feel like she was in a different world. "This is it," she said, her voice full of wonder as she took the car down the street. "This is the life I've always wanted." Tasha was beside her, laughing with joy as the car effortlessly glided along the road. "This is only the beginning, girl." They spent the next hour driving around the city, enjoying the sheer thrill of the moment. They had worked so hard to get here, and now, as they cruised through the streets in their new Rolls-Royces, they felt like they had truly arrived. For Maya, it was more than just about the cars. It was about the journey they had taken to get here, the late nights, the countless obstacles, the people who doubted them. This moment was proof that everything they had sacrificed was worth it. As the sun began to set, casting a warm glow over the city, Maya pulled over to the side of the road. She turned to Tasha, her voice soft but full of emotion. "We did it, Tasha. We really did it." Tasha smiled, her eyes gleaming with pride. "You're damn right we did." For a long moment, they just sat there, the city lights flickering in the distance, knowing that their journey was far from over. They had reached one milestone, but they were just getting started. The world had told them they didn't belong, that they couldn't succeed, but they had proven everyone wrong. And they were ready for whatever came next. The dream was no longer just a fantasy. It was their reality. It didn't take long for the news to spread. Maya and Tasha's story was one that couldn't be ignored. A local news outlet, intrigued by their success and their unique journey, reached out for an interview. Within a week, a feature about them and their new Rolls-Royces was published, showcasing not just the luxury cars, but their struggle, their perseverance, and their triumph. The article, titled From the Bottom to the Top, "Two Teenagers Shatter Stereotypes with Rolls-Royces," quickly went viral. People all over the city, and soon across the country, were captivated by their story. Maya and Tasha found themselves thrust into the spotlight in a way they never imagined possible. The interview was held at a local cafe, a place that Maya and Tasha frequented during their most uncertain days. It felt fitting. The cafe was where they had shared their dreams, where they had kept each other going when things seemed impossible. Now, sitting in front of cameras and lights, they were on the other side of the table. No longer the dreamers, but the ones making dreams happen. The interviewer, a young woman named Erica, sat across from them, her notebook ready. "So, tell me about how this all started. What was it that drove you two to take on an industry that, let's be honest, hadn't really shown interest in people like you?" Maya smiled, her nerves disappearing as she spoke about their journey. "We didn't have much to start with, but we had a vision. We both knew we wanted more than what we were being told we could have. So, we decided to make it happen. There were times when it felt like we were fighting an uphill battle, but we kept pushing." Tasha nodded, her usual calm presence evident. "We didn't have the luxury of waiting around. We had to prove ourselves every step of the way, and that meant being relentless. It meant showing up when others thought we wouldn't, and making them take us seriously. And I think that's what caught people's attention," Maya added. "We didn't wait for permission. We just did it." Erica nodded, clearly impressed. "I think that's the key right there, breaking the mold. But what was it like when you actually drove those cars for the first time? What went through your minds?" Maya exchanged a glance with Tasha, both of them smiling at the memory. "It felt surreal," Tasha said first. "Like all the hard work, all the struggles had led up to that moment. The moment you realize that dreams are not just for people who can afford them, they're for anyone who's willing to work for them." Maya added, "It was an emotional moment. I kept thinking back to all the times I was told that people like us couldn't succeed in this world. But we're here, and we're doing it." The interview continued for another hour, and by the time it was over, Maya and Tasha felt like they had relived every moment of their journey. But more than that, they realized how far they had come. They weren't just two teenagers with big dreams anymore. They were role models. Symbols of perseverance. Proof that you don't need to fit a certain mold to achieve greatness. The response to the article was overwhelming. Their social media accounts exploded with messages of support and admiration, not just from people who looked like them, but from people of all walks of life. It felt like the world was rooting for them. Messages flooded in from young women, entrepreneurs, and others who saw their success as a beacon of hope. One message stood out to Maya. It was from a young girl named Kayla, who had written, "I saw your story, and I just want to say thank you. You showed me that I can have the things I've always dreamed of. I've always felt like people like me didn't belong in certain spaces, but you guys just made me believe that maybe I can break those barriers too. Maya felt a lump form in her throat as she read Kayla's message. She quickly typed a reply, "Keep pushing. You can do it. Don't let anyone tell you that you can't." It was moments like these that made all the struggles worth it. They had started this journey for themselves, but now they were inspiring others to chase their own dreams. It was more than just about the cars, it was about changing the narrative, showing the world that anyone could achieve their goals if they were willing to work for them. A few weeks later, Maya and Tasha were invited to a charity event by Robert and the dealership. The event was being held at an exclusive venue, one that Maya never thought she would step foot in. There would be high-end executives, influencers, and people from all corners of the luxury industry. Maya was nervous at first, she wasn't used to this world of glitter and glamour. But Tasha, ever the composed one, was ready. "We've earned our place here, Maya. This is just the beginning." They entered the venue, and immediately, the difference between the world they had come from and the one they were stepping into hit them. The people were dressed to the nines, sipping champagne and mingling, the air thick with the hum of sophisticated conversation. Maya and Tasha, though, walked in with confidence. They belonged here just as much as anyone else. Robert met them at the door with a smile. "Glad you could make it. I think you two are going to be the stars of the night." As the evening unfolded, Maya and Tasha mingled with some of the most powerful figures in the automotive and luxury industries. They talked with CEOs, discussed their vision for the future, and exchanged business cards with people who had the power to take their story to the next level. It was a world they had only dreamed of entering, but now, they were holding their own in it. It was during one of the conversations that Maya caught the eye of a prominent investor named Charles Maxwell. He was older, with a sharp look that immediately commanded attention. He'd been following their story, and his interest in them was evident. "You two have done something special," Charles said, his voice smooth and calculated. "I think you could do a lot more if you're willing to take it to the next level. There are opportunities in this world that you might not even know exist." Maya was intrigued but also cautious. "What do you mean?" Charles smiled, a glint of opportunity in his eyes. "Let's just say, there's a lot of untapped potential in the luxury car market, and people like you, people who are breaking barriers, are exactly what it needs." Maya and Tasha exchanged a look. This was the kind of opportunity they had dreamed of. It was the door opening to the next phase of their journey, the moment they stepped into the bigger world of luxury, business, and beyond. As they left the event that night, the city lights twinkling in the distance, they knew one thing for sure, this was just the beginning. The world had finally taken notice. And now, Maya and Tasha were ready for whatever came next. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough? The following weeks were a whirlwind. After the charity event, Maya and Tasha found themselves in a fast-paced world of meetings, business calls, and networking events. The luxury car market was opening up to them in ways they hadn't even imagined. Every conversation, every introduction seemed to unlock a new door, a new opportunity that was previously out of reach. But while they were enjoying their newfound success, they knew it was just the start. The conversations with Charles Maxwell had been the catalyst they needed to propel their vision forward. His offer was still fresh in their minds, and it was clear that he believed in their potential. But neither of them wanted to rush into anything. They had worked too hard to get here, and they weren't about to make decisions hastily. "What do you think?" Tasha asked, breaking their silence as they sat in Maya's living room, surrounded by paperwork and business proposals. "Should we take Charles up on his offer?" Maya sat back in her chair, contemplating. "I don't know. It feels like a huge leap, but the possibilities are endless. He's offering us connections, investment opportunities that could skyrocket us into the next phase of this business. But I'm also scared. What if we lose control of our vision? Tasha nodded, her fingers tracing the rim of her coffee cup. I get that. But we've come this far because we took risks. And besides, Charles isn't asking us to give up everything. We'd still have our independence. We could make this work. Maya leaned forward, her eyes shining with determination. You're right. We've always taken risks, and it's gotten us this far. I think we should at least explore what he's offering. We don't have to sign anything right away. We can test the waters. Tasha smiled, her usual calmness returning. Let's do it then. Let's see what he has to offer. A week later, they found themselves sitting in the sleek, modern office of Charles Maxwell. The walls were lined with photos of luxury cars, international business deals, and philanthropic ventures. It was the kind of place that made it clear Charles wasn't just a businessman, he was a mogul. Glad you could make it, Charles said with a smile, motioning for them to sit down. I've been following your progress closely, and I must say, I'm impressed. You two are exactly what the luxury market needs, fresh, bold, and willing to challenge the status quo. Maya and Tasha exchanged a glance. It felt surreal to be sitting in this office, talking business with someone of Charles's stature. But they both knew this was their moment to step up, to take their vision to the next level. We appreciate that, Maya said. We've worked hard to get here, and we know there's a lot more we can do. But we're not in this for the fame. We're in it to create something lasting, something that changes the industry. Charles leaned back in his chair, his fingers steepled together. That's exactly what I like to hear. That's the kind of mentality I'm looking for. Look, I'm not here to control your vision. I'm here to help you expand it. What I'm offering is simple: financial backing, access to a network of high-profile investors, and the opportunity to scale faster than you could on your own. You two have something special, and I can help you take it global. Maya was silent for a moment, her mind racing with the possibilities. And what's the catch? Charles raised an eyebrow. No catch. I'm not asking for a percentage of your business or ownership. I just want to be a part of your success. In return, I'd like to see you leverage the resources I can provide to reach new markets. It's a partnership, not a takeover. Tasha shifted in her seat, clearly weighing the offer. So you're not trying to change what we're doing. You just want to help us get there faster. Exactly, Charles said, his voice smooth but firm. I see your vision. And I want to help you make it bigger. After the meeting, Maya and Tasha took a walk around the city, digesting everything that had been said. It was a lot to take in, but they both knew they couldn't pass up the chance. You're right, Maya said, breaking the silence. We've always been about going bigger, pushing boundaries. This could be the opportunity we've been waiting for. And Charles doesn't seem like the kind of guy who's trying to pull strings behind the scenes. Tasha smiled, her eyes bright with determination. I think it's a good move. But we'll stay true to who we are. No matter how big we get, we've got to keep our vision intact. We started this journey to prove something, to ourselves, and to everyone else. We can't lose sight of that. Maya grinned. Agreed. Let's do it. With the decision made, Maya and Tasha went back to work. They signed a formal agreement with Charles, but they made it clear that they wouldn't sacrifice their vision for anything. Charles respected that, and it was clear he wasn't interested in changing who they were. Instead, he helped them refine their strategy, introduced them to new investors, and offered valuable advice on how to scale their business. As the months passed, their influence in the luxury car market grew. They attended international trade shows, made connections with influential players in the automotive industry, and began collaborating with high-end brands to create exclusive, limited edition products. The world that once seemed out of reach was now their playground. But as they navigated this new world, they never forgot their roots. Maya and Tasha remained grounded, constantly reminding themselves why they started this journey in the first place. It wasn't just about the cars, the fame, or the money, it was about breaking barriers and showing the world that anyone, no matter where they came from, could achieve greatness. One evening, as they sat in a luxury hotel room in Paris, preparing for their biggest presentation yet, Tasha turned to Maya, a thoughtful look on her face. "You know," Tasha said, "I've been thinking a lot about where we started. How far we've come." Maya nodded, looking out at the Paris skyline. "Yeah. It feels like a lifetime ago. I remember when we were sitting in that cafe, dreaming about all of this. It seemed impossible. But we made it possible," Tasha said with a smile. "And we're just getting started. This isn't the end of the road. It's just another step." Maya smiled back, feeling a wave of gratitude and pride wash over her. "I can't believe we're here. But I wouldn't have wanted to do it with anyone else." Tasha reached out, giving Maya's hand a squeeze. "Me neither." And as they looked ahead to the future, they knew that no matter where the road took them, they would always have each other. Together, they had proven that with perseverance, vision, and a little bit of faith, anything was possible. The next day, they stood on stage in front of an audience of investors, partners, and industry leaders. The lights were bright, the stakes were high, and the world was watching. But for Maya and Tasha, this was just another opportunity to prove that their dream was real, and it was only going to keep growing. As they spoke, sharing their story and their vision for the future, they knew one thing for sure: this was only the beginning. The world was theirs to conquer, and they were ready for whatever came next. The months that followed their presentation in Paris were a blur of high-stakes meetings, new partnerships, and relentless growth. Maya and Tasha were no longer just two teenagers from humble beginnings. They were now recognized as pioneers in the luxury car industry, and their brand was rapidly becoming synonymous with boldness, innovation, and breaking barriers. But with success came a pressure that neither of them had fully anticipated. The expectations, both from the public and the investors, were higher than ever. Every move they made was scrutinized, every decision analyzed. As their company grew, so did the weight of responsibility they carried. The pressures of managing an expanding empire began to creep into their lives, testing their resolve. It was late one evening when Maya sat in her office, staring at the screen in front of her, a mountain of paperwork piling up on the desk. She'd always prided herself on her ability to juggle multiple projects, but now, it felt overwhelming. There were meetings to attend, partnerships to solidify, and new opportunities to pursue, but there was also a constant sense of urgency that she couldn't shake. She leaned back in her chair, rubbing her eyes. "I didn't expect it to feel like this," she murmured to herself. The exhilaration of success had been replaced by the exhaustion of constantly being in demand. The vision she and Tasha had started with was still there, but the complexity of managing it all was wearing her down. Her phone buzzed on the desk, snapping her out of her thoughts. It was a message from Tasha. "You good? I'm heading over. We need to talk about the next launch." Maya typed back quickly, "Yeah, I'm fine. Just a lot on my plate. I'll be ready in 30. She sighed and stood up, walking over to the window. The city skyline stretched out before her, a sea of lights and activity. A symbol of how far they had come, and yet, it felt as though the pressure was building with every passing day. When Tasha arrived, Maya was sitting on the couch, her face etched with exhaustion. Tasha, ever the calm and steady force, noticed immediately. "You okay?" she asked, her voice soft but perceptive. Maya smiled weakly. "I'm just tired. There's so much going on, Tasha. I feel like I'm running a marathon and can't catch my breath. I didn't think success would feel like this." Tasha sat down next to her, her eyes full of understanding. "I know what you mean. It's a lot more than we ever imagined. But you can't let the pressure make you forget why we're doing this. We've built something incredible. It's okay to feel overwhelmed sometimes. We've got each other." Maya nodded, appreciating her friend's words more than she could express. I just don't want to lose sight of everything we've worked for, you know. I want to keep pushing forward, but it feels like we're constantly having to prove ourselves. To everyone else, and to ourselves. Tasha reached over and placed a reassuring hand on Maya's. We're not in this to prove anything to anyone else. We're here because we believe in our vision. And we know we can make it work. We just need to take it one step at a time. Maya smiled, feeling a sense of relief in Tasha's presence. You're right. We've come too far to let the weight of everything crush us. We've got this. Tasha grinned. Exactly. And hey, if we need a break, we'll take one. But for now, we've got work to do. The next morning, they both felt reinvigorated. The world still had its challenges, but they were ready to face them head-on. Maya and Tasha went into the office with renewed focus, determined to make the next step in their journey count. It was time for their new product launch, and this one was going to be different. They had secured a partnership with a high-end luxury brand to create a limited edition line of cars, exclusive, one-of-a-kind vehicles that would redefine what it meant to be part of the luxury market. The stakes were high, and the pressure was on. Maya and Tasha spent the next few weeks preparing for the event, overseeing every detail, from the design of the cars to the guest list. They were no longer the young women entering an industry that didn't welcome them. They were now industry leaders, and they intended to show the world just what they were capable of. The night of the launch was one of the most anticipated events of the year. Held at a private venue overlooking the city, the room was filled with influential figures from the automotive world, luxury fashion, and entertainment. Maya and Tasha walked in side by side, confident and poised, ready to make their mark. The event kicked off with a lavish cocktail hour, followed by a presentation that left everyone in awe. Maya and Tasha stood on stage, proudly presenting the cars that had been crafted with precision and care, blending their personal vision with the luxurious touch of their partner brand. As they spoke, the crowd hung on their every word. Maya's voice was steady, filled with the passion that had fueled their journey, while Tasha's calm demeanor offered a sense of stability to the audience. Together, they were a force to be reckoned with, and they could see the admiration in the eyes of the people in the room. When the time came to reveal the cars, the crowd erupted into applause. The vehicles were breathtaking. Sleek, powerful, and innovative, just like Maya and Tasha. This was their ultimate statement: they had arrived, and they weren't going anywhere. Later that night, as the event wound down, Maya and Tasha stood together on the balcony, looking out over the city below. The success of the night was evident in the smiles, the compliments, and the offers they had received from potential investors and partners. But for a moment it was just the two of them, taking in everything they had accomplished. This feels like the beginning of something huge, Maya said, her voice filled with wonder. Tasha nodded, a smile tugging at the corner of her lips. It is. But we've only just scratched the surface. There's so much more to do. Maya looked at her friend, feeling a sense of gratitude and pride. I couldn't have done this without you, Tasha. Tasha turned to her, her expression soft but determined. And you couldn't have done it without me either. We're in this together. As the night stretched on, Maya realized that the journey ahead wasn't just about luxury cars or success. It was about breaking boundaries, about making a difference, and about staying true to who they were, two young women from different backgrounds, but with one shared dream. And together, they would make that dream a reality. Back at the office the next day, they received a call from Charles Maxwell. His voice was filled with enthusiasm as he congratulated them on the success of the launch. You two have done it again. This is exactly what I was talking about, the future of the industry. I'm proud of you both. Maya felt a surge of pride, but she also knew that the road ahead would continue to be challenging. Thanks, Charles. We couldn't have done it without the support of people like you. Now, Charles continued, it's time to think bigger. You've got the world watching, and the next step is to take this global. Are you ready? Maya and Tasha exchanged a look. Their vision had always been global, but now, the reality of it was right in front of them. They had made it this far. There was no turning back now. "We're ready," Tasha said, her voice steady and sure. Maya nodded, a smile crossing her face. "Let's do this." The next few months were nothing short of transformative. The partnership with Charles Maxwell had catapulted Maya and Tasha's brand into the international spotlight. It wasn't just about selling luxury cars anymore, it was about building a legacy. The pair were invited to speak at international conferences, participate in exclusive car shows, and even collaborate with high-end designers and celebrities. Their brand, once a small idea, had blossomed into a symbol of success and innovation, and the world was watching. But with the increased attention came even greater challenges. As they expanded into new markets, the pressure to maintain the integrity of their vision weighed heavily on them. They were still the same two girls who started out with a dream, but now they had millions of people rooting for them and just as many critics ready to tear them down. It was during a pivotal meeting in Milan that Maya first felt the full extent of the weight they were carrying. She and Tasha had been meeting with a renowned European automaker who was interested in collaborating with them to launch an exclusive line of cars. The stakes couldn't have been higher. If the deal went through, it could solidify their position as major players in the global luxury car market. They sat in a sleek conference room, the walls lined with art and modern furnishings. The Italian executives across the table had been nodding along as Maya and Tasha presented their proposal. Tasha was talking numbers, her calm voice steady and persuasive. Maya, on the other hand, was laying out their vision for the future, speaking passionately about their mission to break boundaries in the luxury automotive space. And this collaboration, Maya continued, her eyes scanning the room, isn't just about selling cars. It's about creating a movement. A movement that combines tradition with innovation, style with substance, and most importantly, inclusivity. The world of luxury cars has been historically exclusive, and we want to change that. Our cars aren't just for the elite, they're for anyone who's ever dreamed of driving something that reflects their success. The room was silent for a moment. The executives exchanged looks, clearly impressed by Maya's vision. Finally, one of them spoke. "You two have something special, no doubt. But luxury is a delicate thing. The market is exclusive for a reason. You have to be careful with how you position yourselves. If you go too far, you risk alienating the very people who have made this industry what it is." Maya felt a slight tension in the air. She could see where the executive was coming from, but she wasn't about to back down from the core of their mission. "We understand the importance of exclusivity, but our aim is to redefine it. We believe that true luxury doesn't just belong to a small, privileged group. It belongs to anyone who has the ambition to reach it." Tasha, sensing the growing tension, chimed in. "We're not trying to diminish the value of exclusivity. We want to elevate it, make it more accessible without sacrificing quality or prestige." The conversation went on for several more hours, filled with debates and compromises. It was clear that the European automaker was intrigued, but they weren't fully convinced yet. As the meeting wrapped up, Maya and Tasha left the conference room with mixed feelings. "Well, that went, interestingly," Tasha said, her tone neutral. "Yeah," Maya agreed, running her fingers through her hair. "They're cautious. They want the prestige but don't want to risk losing the exclusivity of the brand. I get it, but it's frustrating." Tasha gave her a sympathetic smile. "It's part of the game. We'll get there. You know we always do." Maya nodded, trying to shake off the doubt creeping in. The pressure to expand without losing their essence was becoming more tangible. They had to tread carefully as they made their way into new territories, always balancing the line between inclusivity and exclusivity, innovation and tradition. A few weeks later, Maya and Tasha found themselves at another crossroads. The deal with the European automaker hadn't gone through, yet. The brand was still considering their proposal, but in the meantime, new opportunities were knocking at their door. One of those opportunities was an invitation to the Monaco Grand Prix, where Maya and Tasha had been asked to present a new, limited edition car that would be released exclusively during the event. It was an invitation that no luxury brand could turn down. But it came with its own set of challenges. The Monaco Grand Prix was one of the most prestigious events in the world. It was an opportunity to align themselves with some of the most influential figures in the automotive world, but it was also a chance for their brand to be scrutinized by critics and enthusiasts alike. They would be presenting their work to an audience that knew everything there was to know about luxury cars. An audience that wouldn't hesitate to tear apart anything that didn't meet their high standards. "I'm not going to lie," Tasha admitted as they sat in the hotel room the night before the event, "I'm nervous. This is big. Really big." Maya smiled, trying to hide the anxiety creeping into her own thoughts. "I know what you mean. But we've worked so hard for this moment. We can't let nerves get the best of us." "I know. It's just, we're so far from where we started. Sometimes it feels like the stakes get higher every day," Tasha said, pacing around the room. Maya stood up, walking over to the window. She looked out over the sparkling lights of Monaco, the ocean reflecting the city's glow. "I've been thinking the same thing. But this is what we wanted, right? The recognition, the opportunity to show the world what we're capable of. This is the moment we've worked for." Tasha stopped pacing and turned to face her. "Yeah, you're right. This is our chance to show everyone that we're not just a flash in the pan. We belong here." They both fell silent for a moment, the weight of the moment settling in. The next day, the Monaco Grand Prix event was everything they had imagined and more. The atmosphere was electric, famous faces, luxury cars, and a crowd eager to see the newest and best in the automotive world. Maya and Tasha were on edge, but their excitement couldn't be contained. This was their moment to shine, to prove to themselves and the world that they were more than just two young women with a big dream. As the event began, they unveiled their new limited edition car, a masterpiece that blended sleek design with cutting-edge technology. The crowd's reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Applause echoed through the venue, and the media buzzed with excitement. For a brief moment, Maya and Tasha felt like they were on top of the world. But just as they were basking in their success, a voice from the back of the room interrupted the celebration. "Nice car, but will it last? Or is it just another trendy luxury item?" the critic's voice rang out, cutting through the excitement like a knife. Maya's heart skipped a beat. She could feel the tension in the room as eyes turned toward her, waiting for a response. It was a moment that could make or break their reputation. Tasha stepped forward, her confidence unwavering. "Our cars are built to last. We don't just create for the trend, we create for the future." The crowd fell silent for a moment, and then the applause started again, louder this time. Maya looked at Tasha, her heart swelling with pride. They had made it, again. And they would continue to push forward, no matter the challenges that lay ahead. They were in this for the long haul. The world was watching, and Maya and Tasha were ready to show them that they weren't just here to play the game, they were here to change it. The future seemed limitless, and the horizon ahead promised even greater challenges, but also greater rewards. Together, they had come so far. And together, they were unstoppable. Maya and Tasha's success at the Monaco Grand Prix was just the beginning of a new chapter in their journey. The world had taken notice, and their brand was now at the center of an ever-expanding empire. Yet, as the excitement of the event faded into the background, the reality of the next challenge loomed large. Expanding globally meant more than just offering cars in new markets. It meant adapting to different cultures, overcoming logistical challenges, and, most daunting of all, the risk of losing the essence of what had made their brand special. In the months that followed, their team grew rapidly. New hires, new partners, new manufacturers, all bringing their own set of expectations and demands. Maya and Tasha found themselves stretched thin, managing not just the creative side of the business but also the operational and financial aspects, which had become more complex by the day. For every new victory, there seemed to be an equal measure of challenge waiting for them. One such challenge came in the form of a new investor, a billionaire named Jackson Harmon, who had taken a keen interest in their brand. Jackson, with his vast fortune and experience in high-end luxury markets, offered Maya and Tasha the opportunity of a lifetime, the chance to expand their brand into Asia, with the promise of considerable financial backing. The deal could have been the game-changer they were looking for, but it came with strings attached. Jackson wanted to take a larger role in the creative direction of the company, something that immediately set off alarm bells for Maya. "I don't know, Tasha," Maya said one evening, pacing in their office. "I get the feeling that if we let him in too much, we'll lose everything we've worked for. We built this company on our own terms, and now this guy thinks he can waltz in and tell us how to do things." Tasha sat across the desk, flipping through some of the financial reports. "I hear you. But let's not forget, Jackson's offer is huge. The Asian market is exploding right now, and this could be a huge opportunity for us. We can't keep doing everything on our own forever." Maya stopped pacing and leaned against the window, staring out at the city skyline. She was torn. She'd always been fiercely independent, but at the same time, she knew the stakes had never been higher. Jackson's wealth and connections could give them the kind of exposure they needed to reach new heights, but it came at the risk of losing control over their vision. "I just can't shake the feeling that once we give him control, there's no going back," Maya continued. "I'm afraid that our brand will become something we don't recognize." Tasha took a deep breath, weighing the situation. "You're right. We can't just hand over the reins. But we also need to think long-term. We've always said we want to redefine luxury, and in order to do that, we need to grow. We don't have to let him take over, but we might need to compromise if we want to scale." Maya's eyes narrowed as she processed Tasha's words. "What if we find a way to work with him, but still keep our creative control? We don't have to make him our boss." Tasha nodded slowly. "Exactly. We negotiate terms. He's here for the money, not the soul of the brand. Let's make sure we hold on to that." In the following weeks, Maya and Tasha sat down with Jackson Harmon to hash out the details of their potential partnership. They came prepared, armed with a clear vision of what they were willing to offer and, more importantly, what they weren't. After hours of discussion, it became clear that while Jackson had the financial power they needed, he was also willing to listen to their concerns. "I understand your hesitance," Jackson said, his voice calm but firm. "But understand this, I'm not trying to change what you've built. I see the potential in your brand because of what you two have created. If anything, I want to help you reach new heights, not alter your vision." Maya and Tasha exchanged a look, both of them sensing that Jackson was sincere. The deal they eventually struck was one that allowed them to maintain creative control while still gaining access to Jackson's vast network and financial resources. It wasn't a perfect solution, but it felt like the right one. With the new deal in place, the next step was to tackle the Asian market. It was a massive challenge, one that would require months of preparation and research. Maya and Tasha found themselves flying back and forth between cities, meeting with local experts, attending trade shows, and understanding the tastes and desires of a completely different consumer base. The cultural differences were significant, and they quickly realized that what worked in Europe and North America didn't always translate well in Asia. There were adjustments to be made in their designs, in their marketing strategies, and even in the way they approached luxury itself. In many parts of Asia, the concept of exclusivity was tied to tradition and status, but the younger generation was beginning to embrace more modern and innovative expressions of luxury. Maya and Tasha knew that they had to find a balance between tradition and innovation if they were going to succeed. After months of research and design adjustments, they were finally ready to launch their brand in Hong Kong. The city, with its combination of traditional luxury and futuristic modernity, was the perfect location for their debut in Asia. The launch event was nothing short of spectacular. Held in a grand ballroom with views of the Victoria Harbour, it was attended by high-profile influencers, business moguls, and media from around the world. The cars were displayed under soft lighting, glimmering like jewels in the evening. It was an elegant but modern affair, a perfect blend of the new and the old. As Maya and Tasha made their entrance, they were greeted by waves of applause. The buzz around their brand had been palpable, but seeing it firsthand, in a completely new market, was overwhelming. They had done it, crossed a major threshold in their journey. But it wasn't just the success of the event that filled Maya with pride. It was the sense that they had remained true to their vision. The cars were different from anything on the market, combining elements of both Western and Eastern design, but still staying true to the bold, innovative spirit that had made their brand unique. As the night wore on, Maya stood with Tasha on the balcony, looking out over the harbor. The lights of the city sparkled like stars, and for a moment, everything felt surreal. "I can't believe we're here," Maya said softly, her voice filled with awe. Tasha smiled, her eyes reflecting the same wonder. "We did it, Maya. This is just the beginning." Maya nodded. "Yeah. The world is ours for the taking." In that moment, she knew without a doubt that their journey was far from over. They had built something incredible, but the road ahead was still full of possibilities, challenges, and endless opportunities. And together, they were ready to face whatever came next. They had made it this far. Now, it was time to see just how far they could go. The success in Hong Kong was a pivotal moment, but Maya and Tasha knew that it was only a taste of what was to come. The global expansion had only just begun, and the challenges would continue to grow. But they had proven to themselves, and to the world, that no dream was too big. The luxury automotive industry had its giants, but Maya and Tasha were determined to carve out their own place in history. And they wouldn't stop until they had changed the game forever. The buzz around Maya and Tasha's brand only grew as they continued their global expansion, with each new milestone bringing them closer to their ultimate vision. They had faced the challenges of scaling their business, balancing the fine line between innovation and tradition, and navigating the intricacies of international markets. But just as things seemed to be falling into place, a storm was brewing, one that neither of them could have predicted. It started with a rumor. At first, it seemed like just another piece of gossip in the fast-paced world of luxury automotive media. But as the days went on, the rumors gained momentum, fueled by whispers of corruption within the company, of internal disputes, and worst of all, allegations that some of the company's high-end cars were not meeting the stringent quality standards they had promised. Maya's phone buzzed constantly with messages from her team, their faces filled with anxiety, their words pleading for a response. News outlets were calling for statements, critics were writing scathing reviews, and their once perfect reputation seemed to be crumbling before their eyes. But the worst blow came when an investigative journalist uncovered that some of their high-end models had undergone modifications without proper oversight. The cars were still stunning, but the integrity of their craftsmanship had been questioned. It was a scandal, and it threatened to undo everything they had worked for. Maya and Tasha had always prided themselves on the integrity of their designs, on the belief that they could create something beautiful without compromising quality. But now, with the world watching, they were forced to confront the harsh reality of the business they had built. They sat together in their office, the weight of the news pressing down on them. Maya stared at the news headlines scrolling across her laptop screen, feeling a knot form in her stomach. "This is bad, Tasha," Maya said, her voice hoarse. "I don't know how we're going to get through this." Tasha leaned back in her chair, taking a deep breath. "We've been through worse, Maya. We can get through this, too. But we have to act fast. We can't let this drag us down." Maya ran her hands through her hair, her frustration evident. "How do we fix something like this? How do we prove that we haven't sold out, that we're still the same brand that built itself on quality?" Tasha thought for a moment before speaking, her voice calm but firm. "First, we need to own up to it. We need to come out and address the issue directly. If we let this fester, it'll only get worse. Then, we need to prove that we're taking steps to fix the problem, to regain the trust of our customers and partners. We have to show them that we're not just a company, but a brand with integrity. And we have to do it quickly. Maya nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. This was the hardest moment they had ever faced. They had built their empire on a foundation of trust, but now that foundation was being questioned. How could they rebuild? The following week, Maya and Tasha held a press conference, their faces resolute as they stood before a sea of cameras and reporters. The room was filled with tension, every eye focused on them. The weight of the world seemed to hang in the air as they prepared to speak. The media had made it clear that they were waiting for a sign of weakness, a crack in the armor. This was their moment to either collapse under the pressure or rise above it. Maya stepped forward, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside her. We are here today to address the recent allegations regarding our brand. We want to be very clear, these issues are not representative of who we are or what we stand for. We built this company from the ground up with a commitment to quality, integrity, and innovation. We are not perfect, but we are taking full responsibility for the mistakes that have been made. Tasha joined her calm demeanor offering a sense of stability to the room. We are deeply sorry to our customers, our partners, and everyone who has supported us. We are committed to resolving these issues, and we've already begun taking corrective measures. This is not just about fixing a product, it's about regaining the trust of the people who have made us who we are. The press conference continued with questions from the media, each one more pointed than the last. But Maya and Tasha stuck to their message, they were owning up to their mistakes and taking the necessary steps to make things right. They had no choice but to show their strength, their resolve, in this moment. The world was watching, and they couldn't afford to back down. The days following the press conference were a blur of meetings, phone calls, and damage control. Maya and Tasha worked tirelessly, reaching out to their customers, partners, and industry experts to assure them that they were taking swift action. They initiated an extensive audit of their production processes, bringing in experts to oversee the entire operation. They promised to fix the issues and to be transparent throughout the entire process. But even as they scrambled to regain control, the damage was done. Sales took a hit, and social media was flooded with negative comments. The scandal spread across the globe, and while some customers stood by them, many others began to question whether the brand had lost its way. It was in the midst of this chaos that Maya received a call from Charles Maxwell, their longtime partner and mentor. His voice on the other end of the line was reassuring, though tinged with concern. "You've weathered storms before, Maya," Charles said. "But this is different. You have to ask yourself, what kind of company do you want to be? This is your chance to prove that you're more than just a brand, you're a movement. You've always believed in pushing boundaries. Now, it's time to push through this challenge and come out stronger." Maya felt a flicker of hope as she listened to Charles's words. The weight of the scandal was still heavy, but his encouragement gave her the strength to keep going. "We've come too far to quit now," she said, determination in her voice. "We'll fix this. We'll make it right." The next few months were some of the most difficult Maya and Tasha had ever faced. The road to recovery was long, but they refused to give up. They worked tirelessly, investing in new technologies, revising their quality control systems, and rebuilding the trust of their customers. It wasn't easy, and there were days when the pressure felt unbearable, but they never wavered in their commitment to their brand. Slowly but surely, they began to see results. Customers who had once turned away came back, reassured by the steps they had taken to address the issues. Media outlets that had once criticized them began to praise their efforts to rebuild. It wasn't a quick fix, but it was progress. One evening, as Maya and Tasha sat in their office, looking over the latest numbers, Tasha turned to her partner with a smile. "It's working," she said. "We're getting there." Maya smiled back, the weight of the past months lifting off her shoulders. "We'll get through this. We've always bounced back, and we will again." Together, they had faced the toughest challenge of their careers. But they had come out the other side stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever. The storm had passed, and now, it was time to rebuild, better than before. The world was watching, but now, Maya and Tasha were ready to show them just how powerful they could be. The storm had shaken them, but it had not broken them. And as they looked toward the future, they knew that nothing could stop them now. They had fought for their dream, and they had earned the right to keep fighting. The months following their recovery from the scandal were crucial for Maya and Tasha. Their brand, while gradually rebuilding its reputation, still faced the challenge of proving that they were not just a comeback story but a brand with a sustainable future. The luxury car world was notoriously cutthroat, and any sign of weakness would be pounced upon by competitors who were eager to capitalize on their downfall. But for Maya and Tasha, the scars of the scandal were not signs of defeat, they were the fuel for their reinvention. The decision to reinvent themselves was not made lightly. Both women knew that they had to go beyond simply fixing the product issues that had caused the scandal. They had to reimagine their entire approach to luxury, what it meant, how it was experienced, and who it was for. The world had changed since they first launched their brand, and they needed to ensure that they didn't just stay relevant but set the pace for the next generation of luxury car enthusiasts. To start, they focused on the core values that had always defined their brand: innovation, integrity, and personalization. But this time, they added a new element: sustainability. Sustainability is the future, Maya said during one of their brainstorming sessions. If we want to lead, we need to be ahead of the curve. We can't just make luxury cars that look good, we need to make them with purpose. We can't be afraid of changing the game, of doing things that others aren't. Tasha nodded. We've always talked about doing things differently. This is our chance to actually do it, create the first truly sustainable luxury car. We can't just tweak things around the edges. We need to completely rethink the way cars are made, from the ground up. It was an ambitious plan, but the duo was never one to shy away from a challenge. They dove headfirst into research and development, working closely with experts in sustainable technologies, materials science, and green energy solutions. They began developing a new generation of cars that used cutting-edge electric powertrains, recycled materials, and eco-friendly production processes. The goal wasn't just to build cars that were environmentally friendly, it was to build cars that still maintained the same level of luxury and performance that their brand had become known for. The concept of the luxury electric vehicle was still a relatively new idea, and it came with its own set of challenges. While electric vehicles, EVs, were growing in popularity, the luxury market had been slow to fully embrace them. There was a prevailing belief that luxury meant excess, big engines, powerful performance, and traditional design. But Maya and Tasha were determined to break that mold. They didn't just want to create a car, they wanted to create an experience, one that was sustainable, powerful, and undeniably luxurious. We're going to push the envelope, Maya said during a late-night strategy session. We can't just put an electric engine in an existing design. We have to reimagine everything, from the way the car drives to the way it looks, feels, and even sounds. Every detail matters. Tasha smiled. We've always done things our way, Maya. Why stop now? The new electric luxury car prototype was finally ready for its first reveal at the prestigious Geneva Motor Show. The anticipation was immense, especially considering the stakes. After the scandal, this was their chance to prove to the world that they could not only bounce back but lead the way in the future of automotive luxury. The world was waiting to see if their bold new vision could be realized. The unveiling event was a spectacle. The moment the car was revealed on stage, the room fell silent. It was unlike anything anyone had ever seen, a sleek, futuristic design that looked both cutting-edge and timeless. The body was sculpted to perfection, with clean, aerodynamic lines that gave the car a sense of movement even when it was standing still. The interior was a masterclass in minimalist luxury, with vegan leather seats, recycled wood accents, and a high-tech dashboard that seemed to blend seamlessly with the surrounding environment. But it wasn't just the design that stunned the crowd, it was the performance. Maya and Tasha had ensured that the car's electric powertrain offered unparalleled speed and efficiency, rivaling the best gas-powered luxury vehicles on the market. The car's acceleration was smooth and immediate, and its handling was precise, offering a driving experience that was both powerful and refined. It was the perfect marriage of sustainability and luxury, a new standard for what the future of automotive excellence could look like. When the presentation ended, the applause was deafening. Critics who had once doubted whether Maya and Tasha could bounce back were now raving about the new car. The media buzzed with excitement, and the response from potential customers was overwhelming. Pre-orders for the car began flooding in from every corner of the globe. "This is it," Tasha whispered to Maya as they watched the reactions from the crowd. "This is what we've been working for." Maya smiled, her heart swelling with pride. "It's more than just a car. It's a statement. We're not just moving forward, we're moving the whole industry forward." In the following months, Maya and Tasha's new luxury electric vehicle became the talk of the automotive world. Sales soared, and their brand's reputation was restored, this time with a stronger foundation than ever before. The reinvention had been a gamble, but it had paid off in ways they hadn't even imagined. They were now not just a luxury car brand, they were pioneers of a new era in automotive design. But while their success felt sweet, Maya and Tasha knew that this was only the beginning. Their journey wasn't just about creating a single revolutionary car, it was about reshaping the entire luxury automotive industry. They had set the bar higher, and now, they had to continue to push the boundaries. "We're not done yet," Maya said during a private meeting with Tasha. "This is just the start. We've proven we can innovate, but now we have to do it again and again. We need to stay ahead of the curve, keep evolving." Tasha nodded in agreement. "And we'll do it together. We've always been in this for the long haul." Together, they knew they had just taken the first step toward a future that was not only bright but full of limitless potential. The road ahead was unknown, but they were more ready than ever to take on whatever came next. In the end, their reinvention wasn't just about designing a new car, it was about redefining what it meant to be a luxury brand in the modern world. And as they looked to the future, Maya and Tasha knew that they had only just begun to leave their mark on the world. The journey ahead would be long and filled with challenges, but one thing was certain, they were prepared to face whatever came their way, just as they always had, together. With the success of their new electric luxury vehicle, Maya and Tasha had achieved what many thought was impossible. They had not only resurrected their brand from the ashes of scandal, but had also placed themselves at the forefront of a rapidly evolving industry. Their revolutionary approach to sustainable luxury had won them accolades, awards, and, most importantly, a loyal customer base eager for what they would do next. But as with every success, there was always a price to pay, and for Maya and Tasha, the cost of perfection would soon become a challenge they hadn't fully anticipated. The pressure was mounting. With every new model, every new innovation, the expectations grew higher. The industry, their customers, and their investors were watching them more closely than ever. They weren't just innovators anymore, they were trailblazers, setting the standard for what the future of luxury could look like. In the months following the release of their electric vehicle, they worked tirelessly to keep up with demand, which was higher than anyone had expected. Their small team of engineers, designers, and manufacturers had been stretched to the limit. What had once been a tight-knit group of passionate individuals was now a sprawling network of departments, contractors, and partners. As the business grew, so did the complexity. It was Tasha who first started feeling the weight of it all. Her days were consumed by meetings with stakeholders, negotiations with suppliers, and strategy sessions with the growing team. Despite her natural ability to juggle responsibilities, she found herself constantly exhausted, questioning whether she could continue at the same pace. Maya, too, felt the strain, though she hid it behind her usual determination. She had always been the visionary, the one to push the brand forward, but now she was beginning to feel the overwhelming responsibility that came with leading such a large operation. One evening, as they sat in their office after another long day, Maya glanced over at Tasha, who was staring at her laptop with a furrowed brow. The room was unusually quiet, save for the sound of the city outside. It had been weeks since they had a chance to just breathe, to take a step back and appreciate how far they had come. But now, with the looming pressure of their next big move, it seemed as though the weight of their success was finally catching up to them. "Tasha," Maya said, breaking the silence. Are we doing too much?" Tasha looked up, her tired eyes betraying her inner turmoil. She opened her mouth to speak but paused, as if weighing her words. "I don't know, Maya. We've built this from the ground up. We've fought through so much to get here. But I feel like we're losing ourselves in the process. I don't even know what our next step should be anymore." Maya let out a long breath, running a hand through her hair. She had been thinking the same thing for weeks but hadn't had the courage to voice it. "I've been so focused on pushing forward, on making sure we stay ahead of the curve, that I haven't stopped to consider what this is all costing us. We're no longer just building a brand, we're managing a legacy. And I don't know if we're ready for that." There was a long pause as the weight of their words hung in the air. Maya and Tasha had always been driven, always striving for perfection. But now, in the quiet of the night, they realized they had sacrificed something along the way. The joy that had once fueled their work, the passion that had pushed them to create something new and exciting, had slowly been replaced by the pressure to maintain their success. They weren't just creating anymore, they were trying to survive the very thing they had built. As the days passed, the strain only deepened. Their brand continued to grow, and new opportunities seemed to present themselves every week. But for Maya and Tasha, each opportunity felt like a new burden, a new expectation to live up to. They were pulled in 100 different directions: investors, press, partners, all demanding their attention, all expecting more. The stress started to take its toll on their relationship as well. They had always been able to rely on each other, but now, with the weight of the business on their shoulders, they began to drift apart, each consumed by their own struggles. Arguments became more frequent, and what had once been a partnership built on mutual respect began to feel strained. Tasha, who had always been the calm and rational one, found herself snapping at Maya over small things. Maya, in turn, grew frustrated with Tasha's hesitation to take risks, feeling as though she was holding them back from what they could truly achieve. It was the first time in their journey that they began to question whether they were still on the same path, or if the weight of their success was pulling them in different directions. One afternoon, after yet another heated argument, Maya took a walk through their downtown office building. The sky was a dull gray, reflecting her mood, and the streets below were bustling with activity. But as she walked, something caught her eye: a sleek, electric sports car parked at the curb, its smooth lines and polished finish standing out against the dull backdrop of the city. She approached it slowly, her fingers grazing the cool surface of the car. The brand's logo gleamed in the sunlight, a symbol of everything they had worked for. And for the first time in a long while, Maya felt a flicker of excitement, a reminder of why they had started this journey in the first place. It wasn't just about the accolades, the sales, or the growth. It was about creating something that inspired people, something that made a real impact on the world. She thought about the first time she and Tasha had dreamed of making a car that changed the way people thought about luxury. She thought about the roadblocks, the sacrifices, and the challenges that had almost broken them, but they had kept going. Maya smiled softly to herself, the tension beginning to ease. She realized then that she couldn't let the weight of expectations drown out the purpose that had driven them from the beginning. They had created something incredible, but it had always been about more than just the cars. It had been about doing things differently, about pushing the boundaries of what was possible. As she stood there, lost in thought, her phone buzzed in her pocket. It was a text from Tasha: "Can we talk? I think we need to reset." Maya took a deep breath and replied, "Let's meet. I think we both need it." That evening, as they sat across from each other in their favorite coffee shop, the atmosphere was different. No pressure, no expectations, just two people who had been through hell and back together. Maya and Tasha talked honestly for the first time in months. They discussed everything, their frustrations, their doubts, their fears. And as they spoke, the bond that had once seemed frayed began to mend. "We're not in this for the wrong reasons, Tasha," Maya said softly, her voice filled with conviction. "We're doing this because we believe in it. We believe in what we're creating." Tasha nodded, a small smile tugging at the corner of her lips. "I know. I've just been so focused on keeping everything together that I forgot why we started this in the first place." Maya reached across the table and squeezed Tasha's hand. "It's not about perfection. It never was. It's about creating something that matters. And we can still do that. Together." In that moment, Maya and Tasha understood what they needed to do. The future wasn't about chasing perfection. It was about staying true to their roots, remembering why they started, and finding joy in the journey once again. With renewed clarity, they left the coffee shop that night knowing that they had overcome the hardest part of their journey. They didn't have all the answers, but they knew one thing for sure: their best work was still ahead of them. And this time, they were going to enjoy every step of the ride. The road ahead would not be easy, but Maya and Tasha had faced countless challenges before. They had built their brand from the ground up, and now, they were going to build it back better than ever. This time, they would do it on their own terms, with the same passion and vision that had always driven them. The price of perfection would not be their burden to carry. The world was still waiting for what they would do next, but this time, they were ready. Together, they would redefine what it meant to create, to innovate, and to lead. Maya and Tasha had weathered the storm of their business's tumultuous ride, but as they sat in the bright sunlight of a new day, they knew that the real work was just beginning. The past few months had been a whirlwind of decisions, challenges, and doubts, but through it all, they had rediscovered the very essence of their passion. Now, the horizon beckoned with new possibilities, and they were more determined than ever to seize them. It was time to shift focus once again. They had proven that luxury could be sustainable, that innovation could be achieved without compromise, and that their brand was capable of taking on the biggest players in the industry. But to keep their momentum, they needed to think beyond just their cars. Maya and Tasha had always believed in the concept of luxury being more than just a product. It was a lifestyle, an experience, and a way of thinking that permeated all aspects of life. "We need to expand," Maya said one morning, her eyes bright with excitement as she flipped through a new concept design. "Our cars have been a huge success, but we're not just a car company anymore. We've got to look at other ways we can influence the luxury market. What if we could create a whole ecosystem: luxury, sustainable living?" Tasha raised an eyebrow, intrigued by the idea. "You mean, like a lifestyle brand? Think bigger." "Exactly," Maya replied, a glint of anticipation in her eyes. "Imagine if we could create a complete luxury experience: homes, accessories, and even fashion, all designed with the same sustainable, cutting-edge technology that's made our cars so successful. What if our cars were just the beginning?" Tasha leaned back in her chair, letting the idea sink in. "That's huge. But if we're talking about shifting from just cars to a broader lifestyle brand, we'll need more than just a product. We'll need partnerships, high-end designers, maybe even architects to create sustainable luxury homes. We'll have to expand our team, our operations. This is a full-on evolution, Maya." "I know. And that's why we need to start thinking ahead," Maya said. "But we've always been innovators, right? We didn't just start with cars, we started with a vision. And this vision? It's about creating a legacy that will redefine how the world sees luxury. It's not just about wealth. It's about being forward-thinking and doing it in a way that leaves the world better than we found it." The next few weeks were filled with late-night brainstorming sessions, conference calls with industry leaders, and trips to meet potential collaborators who could help turn their vision into reality. They began reaching out to renowned architects, designers, and artists who were known for their sustainable and futuristic approaches to design. They wanted to ensure that everything they created was not only beautiful but also functional, innovative, and eco-conscious. One of the most exciting partnerships they secured was with a world-renowned architect, Marcus Olson, who had built a reputation for designing stunning sustainable homes using state-of-the-art technology and materials. Maya and Tasha had always admired Marcus's work, and after a series of meetings, they were thrilled when he agreed to collaborate on designing the first of their luxury eco-homes. These homes would combine advanced energy-saving technologies, green building materials, and an aesthetic that was minimalist yet luxurious. The perfect embodiment of their brand. Tasha and Maya were also deep in discussions with several high-end fashion designers. They wanted to bring sustainable, luxury fashion into the fold, creating a line of clothing that matched the elegance and forward-thinking approach of their cars. They envisioned clothing that not only looked exquisite but also minimized environmental impact, made from organic fabrics and produced using green manufacturing processes. Months later, they were ready to unveil their new vision to the world. The launch event, which took place at one of the most prestigious art galleries in New York City, was designed to showcase their expansion into the world of sustainable luxury living. The grand reveal was an experience that blended art, architecture, design, and automotive excellence, symbolizing the fusion of all the elements of their new brand. The first portion of the evening featured an immersive presentation of their new luxury eco-homes. A replica of one of Marcus Olson's stunning homes was created within the gallery space, giving attendees a chance to walk through the rooms, admire the sustainable materials, and experience firsthand what it would be like to live in such a forward-thinking space. The sleek, futuristic furniture, the clean lines of the walls, and the cutting-edge smart home systems were all designed to reflect the ethos of Maya and Tasha's vision. Next, there was a fashion show that took the crowd's breath away. Models walked the runway in clothing made from organic cotton, hemp, and other sustainable materials, all designed by some of the most innovative names in the fashion world. The pieces were elegant and timeless, with a futuristic edge that made them stand out in the luxury fashion scene. The clothing was a perfect match for the cars, the homes, and the entire lifestyle they were creating. The final part of the event was the most anticipated, the unveiling of their next generation of cars, which now came complete with features inspired by the architecture and fashion lines they had developed. Each car in the new line had a futuristic yet elegant design, and the interiors were crafted from sustainable materials that were both luxurious and eco-friendly. The cars were not only a statement of cutting-edge technology but also an extension of the lifestyle brand that Maya and Tasha had envisioned. The event was a resounding success. Attendees were captivated by the way Maya and Tasha had brought together every aspect of their brand, cars, homes, fashion, into one cohesive, forward-thinking vision. The media buzzed with excitement, praising the duo for their bold ambition and their ability to marry luxury with sustainability in a way that had never been done before. As the weeks passed, the response to their new vision was overwhelmingly positive. Pre-orders for the luxury homes began pouring in, and their fashion line was met with enthusiasm from both critics and consumers. Maya and Tasha's brand had truly become a powerhouse in the luxury world, not just a car company, but a symbol of sustainable, innovative living. However, not everything was smooth sailing. The competition began to take notice of their rapid growth and success. Established players in the luxury automotive, fashion, and real estate industry started to feel the heat. Some of them tried to copy their approach, while others launched aggressive campaigns to discredit Maya and Tasha's brand. They had expected this. The price of disrupting an industry was always opposition, and now they would have to fight harder than ever to protect their vision. But as they sat in their new headquarters, overlooking the city that had always been their home, Maya and Tasha knew they were ready. They had faced obstacles before, both personal and professional. And each time, they had come out stronger. They knew that this new chapter in their journey would bring more challenges, but they were more determined than ever to push forward. "It's not about competing with them," Maya said, looking out at the horizon. "It's about leading. We're not just going to follow the trends. We're going to set them." Tasha nodded, her voice steady and resolute. "And no matter what, we'll do it the way we always have, together." The horizon was wide, and as Maya and Tasha gazed into the distance, they knew that the journey ahead would be just as exhilarating as the one they had already traveled. Together, they would continue to push the boundaries, create the unexpected, and leave a legacy that would last for generations to come. This was only the beginning. Maya and Tasha's grand vision had rapidly shifted the landscape of sustainable luxury, and the world was taking notice. Their cars, homes, and fashion lines were no longer just products, they were a movement. Everywhere they turned, they saw their ideas being reflected in the media, the streets, and the homes of their customers. They had become icons, the faces of a new era in luxury. The attention was intoxicating, and the pressure was building. But amidst all the accolades and growth, a dark undercurrent began to take shape. They had always known that when you're on top, there's always someone waiting to take you down. What they hadn't anticipated was the scale and intensity of the attack that was coming for them. It started with whispers in the press. Initially, they were small rumors, innuendos suggesting that their rapid rise might not be as organic as it appeared. Critics questioned how they had managed to scale so quickly, suggesting that their success was built on dubious alliances and shady practices. Maya and Tasha brushed these off, knowing that the world was often quick to attack those who dared to disrupt the status quo. But soon, the rumors grew louder, more coordinated, and more dangerous. One morning, Maya received a call from their public relations team. Her stomach churned as soon as she saw the caller ID. "Good morning, Maya," Sarah, the head of PR, began, her voice tense. "I need you to sit down. There's been a huge leak to the press. Someone has accused us of using non-sustainable practices in our production processes, specifically in the sourcing of materials for our vehicles. It's already gone viral." Maya's heart skipped a beat. She could hear the anxiety in Sarah's voice, and it wasn't helping. "What? Who's behind this?" "We don't know yet, but it's all over the media. There are also claims that we've used unethical labor practices in our supply chain, and some outlets are starting to pick it up. People are questioning our entire business model." Maya rubbed her temples, trying to hold on to her composure. This is insane. We've always been transparent. We've made sure every single part of our production process aligns with the values we preach. Who would do this? We're working on damage control, but it's bad, Maya. Very bad. We need a statement, and fast." She didn't respond immediately. The world they had built, the trust they had worked so hard to establish, was now hanging in the balance. Maya knew that if these allegations gained traction, it would ruin everything. They couldn't afford to let their hard work crumble beneath them. They had to act quickly. Later that day, Maya and Tasha sat in their conference room, watching the news unfold on TV. The stories were being picked up faster than they could respond. Tasha sat with her arms crossed, her expression unreadable. Maya stared at the screen, her mind racing. The rumors were becoming more detailed. There were even claims that insiders had secretly recorded conversations and that some of the key suppliers they worked with had shady connections. "Is it possible?" Tasha asked, breaking the silence. Her voice was calm, but Maya could hear the underlying tension. Could someone have planted these stories to discredit us? "It's possible," Maya said, though she hated the thought. "But we've done everything by the book. Every piece of material we use has been ethically sourced, and every labor practice has been documented and transparent." Tasha leaned forward, a determined look on her face. "We've got to get to the bottom of this. I don't care who's behind it. We're not letting them take us down without a fight." Maya nodded. "Agreed. But we need to stay calm. We can't let them see us sweat. We need to be methodical, strategic. If someone is trying to sabotage us, they're going to wish they'd never started this." As the days passed, the situation only worsened. More leaks came to light, and soon, accusations started to surface from former employees. The claims were escalating, from allegations of environmental violations to whispers about personal misconduct. Their entire company, its ethos, its integrity, was being called into question. Maya and Tasha worked around the clock, reviewing every part of their supply chain, speaking with legal teams, and crafting statements. They held press conferences and met with journalists, doing everything they could to refute the accusations and re-establish trust. Despite their best efforts, the media's frenzy showed no sign of slowing down. Every attempt to explain or clarify seemed to make things worse, twisting the narrative even more. But the more they fought back, the more they began to see a troubling pattern. It wasn't just bad press, it was a calculated attack. Someone, somewhere, was orchestrating these leaks. Someone who knew their company's weaknesses, someone with an agenda. It wasn't just about bringing them down, it was about destroying everything they had built. One night, Maya and Tasha met privately to discuss their next move. "You know what this feels like, right?" Tasha asked, her voice low. "It feels like someone's trying to make us fail. Not because they believe the accusations, but because they want to see us broken. It's personal." Maya sat back in her chair, her mind working through the possibilities. Who would want that? Who would want to tear down everything we've worked for? Tasha looked at her thoughtfully. "There's only one person who has the kind of reach to do this." "You don't think?" Maya's stomach dropped. She knew exactly who Tasha was talking about. The next morning, Maya and Tasha found themselves face to face with an old adversary, someone they had hoped they would never cross paths with again. Gregory Hartman, a former business partner, had resurfaced. They hadn't seen him in years, but his name had always lingered in the background of their business dealings. Gregory had once been a mentor to Maya, but when he had pushed them into a risky investment deal that nearly ruined everything, they had severed ties with him. Since then, they had built their empire without him, and he had seemed content to fade into obscurity. But now, as the accusations piled up, Maya couldn't help but feel that Hartman was behind it all. He had the resources, the influence, and the vendetta to pull off something like this. Tasha was the first to speak up, her voice calm but firm. "Gregory, we know you've been behind the leaks. The rumors, the accusations, it's you, isn't it?" Gregory smirked, leaning back in his chair. "You always were sharp, Tasha. I must admit, I'm impressed by how you've managed to grow your little brand. But you're not ready for what's coming next." Maya's eyes narrowed. "What do you want, Gregory? Why are you doing this?" He chuckled, almost mockingly. "I want what's mine. You two think you can just waltz in and take what I've built? You think you can play in the big leagues and not expect me to remind you who's been running things behind the scenes?" Maya's anger flared, but she kept her voice steady. "You were never behind anything. We built this, Gregory. Not you. We're not afraid of you." He stood up, straightening his suit. "We'll see. You've got a long way to go before you can prove that. The game's just begun." As Gregory Hartman left their office, Maya and Tasha exchanged a look of mutual resolve. This wasn't just about their business anymore, it was about their legacy, their fight for the truth. They knew the road ahead would be even harder than they could have imagined, but they were ready. They had already overcome the impossible once before. And they would do it again. The fight was no longer about cars, homes, or fashion. It had evolved into something far more personal. Gregory Hartman had sparked a fire that Maya and Tasha couldn't let burn out. They weren't just defending their company anymore, they were defending their integrity, their values, and everything they had worked so tirelessly to build. This wasn't just a business, this was their legacy. Over the next few days, Maya and Tasha worked tirelessly to prepare for what was coming. The media was still relentless, publishing stories filled with speculation, anonymous sources, and half-truths. Their social media platforms were flooded with messages of doubt, skepticism, and outright hostility. Every new accusation seemed to carry more weight, and the pressure was mounting with each passing hour. Yet, through all of this, the two women remained unwavering. They had weathered storms before, and this would be no different. They knew they had to respond, but not just in the usual way. They couldn't afford to just throw out statements or issue vague promises. They needed to prove, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that they were telling the truth, and that their commitment to sustainable, ethical business practices was as strong as it had ever been. The first step was to uncover who was feeding the media. Maya had a gut feeling it was someone within the industry, a competitor, perhaps. But her suspicion was now solidified. After a few sleepless nights of strategizing, they decided it was time to go on the offensive. They were going to track down the source of the leaks, confront the puppeteers behind the curtain, and expose the truth for what it was. "We can't keep playing defense," Maya said as she paced around their headquarters. "We need to take control of this narrative." Tasha nodded. "I've been thinking about that too. It's time to turn this around. We need to show the world that these accusations are lies, and if Gregory Hartman's involved, he's going down." Maya looked up at Tasha, her resolve hardening. "Let's do it." The first move was a public statement, not the usual fluff or half-hearted apology that might placate the media, but a bold, undeniable declaration of their commitment to transparency. The statement would outline every single step of their production process, from material sourcing to labor practices, and would include third-party audits to back up their claims. They would open their doors to the world, inviting journalists, influencers, and critics alike to see how things were really done. They had nothing to hide, and they weren't going to let Gregory or anyone else tarnish their reputation. "We're doing this the right way," Maya said as she signed off on the statement, her fingers shaking slightly from the weight of the moment. "We're not just reacting to their lies. We're showing everyone exactly who we are." Tasha leaned back in her chair, considering the implications. "This will either make or break us. But we've been through worse. We can do this." The next few days were a blur of meetings, press conferences, and countless hours spent analyzing the public response. The statement had been issued, but the media was slow to shift their narrative. It was hard to move public opinion when the tide had already begun to swell. Still, they were starting to see a change. The focus had started to turn from the accusations themselves to the credibility of the sources behind them. The turning point came when Maya and Tasha decided to go even further. They took the fight straight to Gregory. In a tense, high-stakes press event that would be broadcast live, they invited him to publicly answer the accusations. The entire media was watching, waiting to see who would come out on top in this battle for truth. Maya stood at the podium first. Her voice was steady, calm, but there was a fire in her eyes. "Today, we face a challenge that's been thrust upon us, one that seeks to undermine everything we've built. We've always prided ourselves on transparency and integrity. Our commitment to sustainable luxury is not just a tagline, it's the backbone of everything we do. But as you all know, there are those who wish to tear that down. People who see our success and want to destroy it for their own gain." She paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. "We've opened up our doors, we've shared every part of our process, and we've invited the world to see for themselves. But there's one person who's been hiding behind the scenes, orchestrating these lies. One person who can't stand to see us succeed. And that person is Gregory Hartman." The camera flashed as Gregory made his way to the stage, his usual smug demeanor replaced with a tight-lipped expression. The air was thick with tension as the two business titans faced off. Maya didn't back down. Neither did Tasha. Gregory smirked as he took the microphone. "So, this is how it's going to be. You think you can stand here and point fingers without proof? You think the public will believe your lies?" Maya took a deep breath, her voice unwavering. "You're the one spreading lies, Gregory. It's time for you to answer for your actions. It's time for you to explain why you've been undermining us. Why you've been feeding false stories to the media, all to tear down what we've built." For the first time, Gregory hesitated. The tables were turned. The media, who had once been hungry for scandal, now turned their attention to him. The crowd was no longer on his side. The fallout was swift. Within hours, multiple whistleblowers came forward, confirming what Maya and Tasha had suspected all along: Gregory had been behind the leaks. As it turned out, he had been attempting to sabotage their business to reclaim the influence he had once lost. With the truth finally out, public sentiment shifted drastically. The accusations against Maya and Tasha's brand were quickly debunked. Consumers rallied behind them, showing support for their transparency, their ethical practices, and their resilience in the face of adversity. Gregory Hartman, meanwhile, found himself exposed and cornered. His reputation, once untouchable, crumbled in the wake of his schemes. Lawsuits were filed against him, and his once thriving network of connections began to disintegrate. No longer could he hide behind his wealth and influence. The public, it seemed, had finally seen through his lies. As the dust settled and their brand slowly regained its footing, Maya and Tasha sat together in the quiet of their office, reflecting on the journey that had brought them here. It had been a battle, one that had tested their strength, their resolve, and their friendship. But in the end, they had won. "We did it," Tasha said softly, her voice filled with a sense of relief. Maya smiled, though the exhaustion in her eyes was evident. "We did. But it's not over yet. We've proven we can overcome anything. Now, we keep pushing forward. We build this brand into something that can't be broken. Not by anyone." Tasha nodded, a determined glint in her eyes. "We'll keep going. We'll keep proving them wrong. Because we're not just making luxury. We're making history." Together, they had built something truly remarkable. And together, they would continue to rise, no matter the challenges that came their way. The world was watching, and Maya and Tasha were ready to take on whatever came next. Their legacy was secure. But the best was yet to come. The end was just the beginning. Hit subscribe and leave a comment with where you're watching from. This story might just spark a new beginning. What's one thing that always pushes you forward, even when things get tough?